In his 18th year in the country, Aaron finally remembered the fact that he was a traveler. His situation is a bit off. No lovely sister awakened to kill the divine son, no emperor on the golden toilet appeared to recognize him as his son, and no group of persecuted witches in need of assistance were encountered. Even with average qualifications, he faces the fact that he is the last generation of this family. It would be great if I could work in a profession that can summon creatures with cards. Fortunately, fate did not abandon him. For kind, and beautiful gods have decided to choose him as their representative. So, let's start by putting on the chaos crown and playing cards with these four good brothers. Book Friend Group Tianzi's Nyolu 8926299506, strictly prohibited from using political keys and sharing current affairs news, keywords of the novel. Chaos Corona without pop-ups, Chaos Corona TXT complete collection download, Chaos Corona latest chapter reading. Chapter 1, An Impossible Messiah. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1, An Impossible Messiah. Gulu gulu, the familiar sound of car axles, the bright spring sunshine stubbornly falling down through the cracks in the shade, and the soil road between the two forests was covered with decaying leaves, making an unpleasant sound. Occasionally, the wheel would hit a small stone, and the entire cheap freight carriage would respond enthusiastically, bouncing up and down. The old wooden structure was already unstable, and each bouncing seemed to bring it closer to the announcement of disintegration. The air was filled with a faint fragrance of fragrant grass, mixed with the scent of soil and leaves. The soft, scarf-like breeze touched the skin of the carriage passengers, giving them a sense of comfort. The man lying on the carriage arched his waist forcefully, like a tetanus patient, convulsing uncontrollably, vibrating, his muscles tense and twisted, his head and feet pressed against the less sturdy wooden board, causing the carriage structure to make painful noises. Aaron vaguely heard someone speaking in a daze. "Damn it, isn't it just killing someone? Your Viscount, why is that all? I don't think he's injured. Is he getting tetanus like this? Impossible. How could tetanus happen on the same day? Aaron, are you okay? Wake up." A weak hand shook his shoulder. Aaron. The young man lying in the carriage wanted to open his eyes immediately, but the exhilarating release and the numb and itchy electric current all over his body made him unable to do anything except constantly twitch his body. "Aaron, yes, my name is Aaron. My name is Aaron Salian, and I just killed a bandit. This is the first time in my life that I have ever killed someone." The young man thought in confusion that he had finally covered his head with his hands and arched his body into a big shrimp. Wait. In this lifetime. The young man's handsome features twisted into a ball, and the voices beside him thought he was in great pain, but only Aaron knew that he had just been consumed by a strong sense of pleasure. The pleasure of killing. This is his first time personally killing. Aaron once thought he would feel fear and disgust towards blood. However, no, on the contrary, when the blood of the robber splattered on his face, he felt an unimaginable pleasure, which made him faint on the spot. My companion thought that this aristocratic son couldn't accept the blood for the first time when he killed someone, but he didn't pay much attention and put him on the carriage to continue moving forward. Aaron's body continued to twitch, and after he awkwardly pushed his abdomen upwards 3 or 4 times, the overwhelming pleasure slowly faded away. The young man tried to open his eyes, and the glaring light in front of him made him squint involuntarily. Yes, it's spring. The scenery on both sides tells Aaron that spring is walking towards him with great strides. He lay on the carriage, wearing a thick lock armor, with a purple robe covering the surface of the armor. The opening on it told the story of his recent encounter in battle. The thief's knife left a mark on his lock armor, and his sword left a scar as big as a bowl on the thief's neck. Strange to say, 5 robbers, 3 swords, and a hard bow are enough to deal with ordinary woodcutters and hunters, but where did they come from with the confidence to deal with 3 adventurers? Aaron opened his mouth but couldn't speak for a moment, so he decided to shut up. The sound of the axle gradually became clear, and his hearing was recovering. The usually annoying sounds were so pleasant to the ear. In the spring of May, the sunshine was bright and the spring atmosphere was strong. Bright light shone through the shade of the trees and fell on Aaron's face. There was also a gentle breeze in the forest, and the scenery of the retreating broad-leaved forest on both sides was displayed in Aaron's sight. The wheels of the carriage slowly advanced along the muddy road covered with fallen leaves, and the body swayed perfectly. If it weren't for the strong smell of blood in his mouth and nose, Aaron would almost want to close his eyes and sleep. Someone didn't give him a chance. "You have finally woken up, my Viscount. Tampa's is up. I know you have seen blood for the first time, but how can you become a knight in the future if you faint like this?" A voice was chattering incessantly, with a hint of concern in its words. Aaron opened his eyes again, his head was in chaos. Something was trapped inside him, trapped by his flesh and soul will. It was powerful and indestructible, but it was just restrained. It was roaring, and every move it made caused great harm to the young Viscount. The Viscount could only stand still, with veins densely covering his forehead and teeth clenched. The screaming demonic faces that rushed towards him were less than an inch away from his face, and his soul was almost engulfed by the tide of chaos. That is an indescribable terrifying existence. It struggles, it distorts, it carries endless hunger and madness. Aaron didn't know why this kind of thing happened when he just killed a bandit, but his brain felt very happy, so happy that something was breaking. "Where am I?" Aaron's head ordered his body to get up, but his body indicated that it was impossible. He just twitched a few times and said, "What happened?" Sitting next to Aaron was a wizard apprentice in his early 20s, dressed in a dark brown robe and with a large golden back. He had a slender nose and a pair of slender eyes. Hicks, the apprentice of the War Mage Academy, was slowly recognized by Aaron. "This is a jerk who played with Aaron for a few years. Later on, his family moved away and we met again 10 years later. This bastard actually became an apprentice of a war mage. Now I am superior." However, the deep-seated ruffian aura remained unchanged, and when I smiled, it still had the same mischievous smell. Aaron really wants to slap him in the face. "Hey brother, not only do you faint blood, but you also have amnesia." The apprentice wizard couldn't help but laugh when he saw Aaron's bewildered expression. He snapped his finger and the kettle in his hand soared up. "I think a breath is more useful than anything at this time. Come on, I'll invite you. When I go back, I'll pass on our Viscount's heroic deeds to Susar. Zero-ring trick." The hand of a mage, Aaron couldn't help but recall that his companion happened to be of this age, and he had to use the hand of a mage hundreds of times a day. As long as he could solve it with the hand of a mage, he would never do anything. Black base ale, a specialty of the kingdom, is a cheap item worth 2 silver coins per gallon, approximately 4.5 liters. Aaron prefers the ammi water and gin at home. "I haven't lost my memory, Hicks. You bastard, if you dare to say this, you'll be dead." Aaron rolled his eyes. "If you don't want to drink, just have an apple," said the driver as he threw an apple from the front seat. "I don't know why you adults from the city don't like drinking. My son often steals me to drink. I need to stay awake at all times, this is what the caster should do." Hicks raised his head and said, "You don't understand." "Yes, we don't understand, you always say that." Dong, the red skin, plump flesh, and brightly colored apples smashed onto the wooden board of the carriage, disrupting the rhythm of the wheels. Almost no one in the whole country doesn't like apples, especially the poor. Fruits are a natural sweetener, and apples are one of the more popular ones. Raw apples, ripe apples, green-skinned apples for cooking, apple sauce, apple juice, apple cider, apple cider, apple cider, apple pie, and a variety of apple desserts make up a unique apple culture. It is said that the Fire Lady also loves apples. Volk, a coachman in his 30s, was tall and had 2 scars on his face, which made him look particularly ferocious. He deliberately wore a suit of armor slightly larger than his own figure and specially added an extra-large shoulder armor with a hungry wolf pattern engraved on it. He also carried a two-handed sword on his back, which looked very intimidating. Volk's attire was completely opposite to the exquisite and refined Aaron and Hicks. He deliberately dressed himself up like a barbarian from the north, a kind of savage who would go berserk at a word of disagreement. With this appearance, he had scared off many enemies. Actually, it's all fake. Volk is a warrior, a very weak warrior, otherwise he wouldn't have been in the army for more than 10 years and would have worked as a charioteer. Aaron knew that the two-handed sword was actually hollow and would not weigh more than 5 pounds. The robbers were frightened by Volk's chaotic dance with the two-handed sword, and he didn't know if they noticed that the two-handed sword was not as good as the chef's fire stick in Volk's hand. Forget it, it's meaningless anymore. Aaron closed his eyes and said, "Don't eat. Viscount, if you don't eat apples, then Hicks, will you eat apples?" Walker threw another apple from the front seat. Dong! The apple landed next to Aaron's head this time. "I don't want to eat, if I want to eat, I will." Hicks never forgets to show off his trick at any time. The wizard picked up the apple from the wooden board with his hand and put it back in Volk's pocket. "Do it yourself, you guys are really good. Why don't you eat apples?" "I just love to eat apples. This bag of apples is grown in Wanching Town, and this small bag costs 2 gold coins." Walker muttered, "2 mora, punish these 2 people who don't respect apples." After speaking, Volk picked up the apple and ate it in big gulps. Aaron and Hicks exchanged a glance, and both sides reluctantly closed their eyes. Volk is a pan-believer who worships all kinds of gods, but most of the time he is limited to words. Whenever he needs someone, he will recite their name and worship them, which is also a common practice among the people of the country. But it's okay, as long as you believe that God exists, you won't be used to build a wall of unbelievers after death. After the turmoil that spanned the entire multiverse 2 years ago, almost no one still insists on the bizarre view that God does not exist. 2 years ago, as long as enough gold coins were enshrined, even everyone could see live, real gods in that big city to the north. You can still chat with her. Aaron was still trying to get up, and he found that he seemed to be able to slowly control his body. He clenched his fists, focused his strength on his wrists, and his legs regained consciousness. Just as Aaron focused all his attention on his body, he heard the sound of breaking through the air from ahead and felt a heavy object hitting him. It seemed much heavier than an apple. Aaron let out a muffled groan, and his temper immediately rose. "Volk!" Aaron immediately roared out, "I didn't say it, I don't want to eat apples." The sound of horses startled and hissing, as well as the piercing sound of breaking through the air, came to my ears. A beam of light brushed past Aaron's forehead, and the scorching pain instantly tightened his facial features. "What's going on?" A moist sensation came from his chest, and as Aaron shifted his gaze to his own chest, a cold breath instantly enveloped his entire body, causing his eyes to shrink to the size of pinholes. "It's not an apple that fell on my chest. But it's Volker's head." Volk, dressed like a barbarian from the north, still maintained an expression of shock and disbelief. His mouth opened wide, and the apple residue mixed with his bad breath and blood rushed towards Aaron's face. Before Aaron could react, the carriage under him made an explosive sound. A lightning bolt accurately hit the carriage, and Aaron felt a huge impact coming from his back. His entire body rose up with the exploding carriage, like a piece of rag, flying out along with the debris of the carriage's explosion. "Ah!" Aaron screamed in pain as he fell heavily to the ground. The sharp pain in his back reminded him that he had landed, and the intense impact caused a painful cry and a lot of saliva to spurt out from his throat. The young Viscount's willpower was unexpectedly tenacious, and years of training made him instinctively reach out to touch the long sword at his waist while watching what was happening. Under the shade of the forest, a group of goblins were quickly approaching under the leadership of several bear goblins, along with an ogre and a big goblin shaman. Aaron guessed that the spell he had just cast was from this goblin shaman, and the ferocious wolf had already pounced on the poor horse and devoured it, with Volk's body becoming a feast. What's going on? Goblins appearing here in the king's forest? Or is it so close to Suzur? Aaron held the sword, which did not give him a sense of security, but at least made him fantasize about his ability to resist. Run away. Aaron, run away. Baum Hicks's voice came from the other side, and the mage apprentice shouted loudly, Aaron, quick, I'll drag them down. After speaking, Hicks sang the first spell. Second ring magic, spider web art. A sticky spider web appeared out of nowhere, trapping future attackers. Aaron noticed that Hicks was probably injured, and his casting appeared to be stumbling and much slower than his usual speed. Moreover, to make matters worse, the spells memorized by the mage apprentice today were not able to handle this encounter well. What are you still looking at? Run. Aaron. Hicks' spider web couldn't restrain the orcs for too long, and the strong ogre had easily broken free from the shackles. Damn it, move it, move it. Aaron frantically urged himself, his brain almost blank. He tried his best to move his body, but the scene from earlier still lingered in his mind. Volk's huge head landed on his chest, his face still filled with a painful expression of surprise. That strong sensation has returned. Stimulated, numb, and extremely itchy, like insects crawling rapidly beneath the skin, soaking into Aaron's bone marrow. That existence was howling, roaring, vibrating, beating along Aaron's heart, mixed with pain and joy, pouring from Aaron's heart into his organs and even his whole body. Finally, head straight to the forehead. Something is broken. Aaron's mouth grew larger, his eyes widened, and a familiar memory flooded into his mind as the thing shattered. His eyes were shattered like glass, his sealed memories were liberated, and those familiar scenes returned to his mind. The personality named Aaron Salian exploded into countless fragments in an instant, and quickly recombined in the newly flooded memories, forming a brand new personality composed of past and present memories. This personality, also known as Aaron Salian, was completely different. I remember now. I am not from this world. I have traveled through time. Due to an accident, I traveled to this world. But this is not the beginning. During the journey, I saw God. True gods, and there are 4. The 4 true gods are very friendly and kind, and they appreciate me very much. They have just discovered a brand new universe that has not been visited by them. The 4 gods were very excited, and after a brief discussion, they decided that each of them would grant me a great power as their representative. Endless decay and enjoyment, infinite decay and rebirth, infinite knowledge and change. And that powerful, destructive force. Everything went smoothly, Aaron had no ability or qualification to resist at all. Until the light of the supernova explosion engulfed everything, the entire space was pulled into a straight line, all energy and madness were expelled, and the ethereal beings melted and disappeared, and in supreme existence descended upon them. This feeling is very wonderful. This deity did not appear in any form, but when he descended, all the scenery scattered like broken glass, and the material world spread out like silk. He appeared before the 4 deities as if he did not exist, but he was everywhere. He is among all things. He weaves the kingdom, and naturally does not allow other beings to desecrate it. Outer gods, you have violated the rules. The stars lit up, and his ultimate starlight faced the endless power of the 4 gods. Aaron saw with his own eyes that the 4 gods were defeated under his hands. But this is not a battle of immense strength. If the 4 gods are willing to join forces against the enemy, they may not have a chance to win. At least there is a possibility of a draw. But as Aaron has always understood them, this is absolutely impossible. They may reach a consensus in a short time, but they will never unite. The 4 gods were forced to retreat, but their power remained here, their will was driven out from here, and their chosen representatives have survived to this day. This person is Aaron. He remembered. Aaron. Hick's voice rang out again, and the mage apprentice's voice was hoarse. Hurry up. The charging of the bear goblin interrupted the roar of the mage apprentice. The ogre's giant hammer also rushed towards Aaron, and the weak Viscount reluctantly blocked it with his sword. The piercing pain in his wrist made him groan uncontrollably, and he stepped back a few steps, his heavy boots directly stepping on his chest. Dong! The long sword landed. A big hand grabbed his hair and pulled his head up. The ogre's simple and ignorant rough voice rang out, Lord Mepham. What should Gulk do? A black-robed man stepped out of the forest and reached out his thin fingers from his sleeve, fanatically saying, Give him to me. Ogre, you're doing well, I'll give you a lot of meat to eat, a lot of meat. Gulk, eat meat Gulk, eat a lot of meat. The ogre grabbed Aaron's hair and pulled him up from the ground, dragging his body to move. Son of Bar, you will be offered to the Supreme Black Sun Lord. The black-robed one said joyfully, It is your honor. Aaron was dragged by his hair through the soft forests of spring. He endured the piercing pain and the dull pain in his chest, sucked in his breath hard, and a voice from his lips that did not come from his will. There will always be mortals. What are you saying? The ogre lifted Aaron's head and said, What do humans want to say? Aaron's eyes were filled with purple energy, and an 8-pointed star emblem emerged from the purple energy. The power of the gods erupted at this moment. There are always mortals who dare to face the eternal glory. Updated, published new books, woo. End of this chapter. Chapter 2, Moments of Life and Death. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2, Moments of Life and Death. The hair was tightly clenched by a tremendous force, and the sword landed not far from the forest. The murmuring words in this weak human's mouth did not catch the attention of the ogre. Gulk's mind was only thinking about how much food this human could exchange from its master to eat. The changes in Aaron's body did not attract the attention of the ogre. The other person only muttered a few words and continued to drag Aaron's hair outward. The ogres themselves are a species with infinite power but little intelligence. They are generally classified as the giant race, and half of the ogres are in a chaotic and evil camp. They only want to eat enough, so they can do anything without pressure to destroy anything, as long as they feel hungry. Many of the remaining ogres are also classified as neutral evil factions. These ogres become mercenaries or subordinates, as long as you can make them eat their fill and they don't mind serving you. However, ogre employment contracts are always unreliable, and they may change their conditions temporarily due to hunger or betray at any time because someone offers higher prices. Aaron recalled his knowledge in this area. He looked at the height and body shape of the ogre and knew that his opponent's strength was unmatched. This guy's wrist, thicker than his thighs, could twist his neck with just one action, and his big stick could smash his internal organs with just one click through the lock armor. Therefore, there is only one chance. I can only bet once. Hey, big guy. Aaron gasped hard and lifted his head as much as he could. How much meat did he give you? Sure enough, for the low-witted ogre, meat is a magical word with magical power. Gulk immediately lifted his chin happily and said, Lord Mepham will give Gulk a lot of meat, enough for him to eat until summer. Ma'am, it seems that this is the name of that sorcerer. Aaron's mind is frantically collecting information. Black Sun Lord, son of Baal, sorcerer, goblin and bear goblin, and the ogre in front of him. Black Sun Lord. Shrek. The son of Bar. The master of murder. The young Viscount's mind is rapidly sorting out a large amount of fragmented and chaotic information, from his past life memories and from his current life memories. He suddenly understood that this was a carefully planned ambush, the robbers were just probing, and his behavior clearly led the other party to misunderstand. They thought he was the son of Baal. I'm not the son of Bar. He is also the son of Chaos. Aaron gritted his teeth tightly, and it was only natural for this unforeseeable disaster to come. "Hey, big guy, are you satisfied with enough meat to eat until summer?" The weak human said in a contemptuous tone, "Let me go, I'll treat you to enough meat to eat until autumn." Meat. More meat. The ogre hesitated and said, "But Lord Mepham will punish Gulk." "Very good, this is obviously a neutral and evil ogre." Aaron used all his wisdom and coaxed him gently, "I am a viscount, my life is worth money. If you let me go, I will go back and give you a farm of meat. I'm not your enemy, I'm your friend. Weak humans are friends, not enemies." "Yes, friend, more meat, enemies, less meat." The ogre's hostility quickly dissipated, and the other party clearly became entangled. Succeed in charm. The ogre's big hand finally let go of Aaron's hair, and the Viscount fell heavily to the ground, causing his organs to almost move and his wrists and knees to make a crisp sound. "It hurts so much. It really hurts." Aaron's fierce face revealed a cruel yet proud smile. One of the powers bestowed by the four gods has just been unsealed. He understood why he could remember the time travel and why he awakened the power of the gods. Due to the immense mental stimulation, the first-time killing, seeing the mental stimulation of Volk's head, and the mental stimulation on the edge of death, this fresh and extreme stimulation was the favorite thing of that deity. After continuous stimulation, a spell immediately popped up in Aaron's mind, a ring of magic. Enchanting humans. No need to learn, no need to understand, this spell is like his breathing, it is an innate instinct. The charm succeeded, and the ogre became entangled, giving Aaron a chance to catch his breath. He quickly turned his gaze towards the muddy path in the nearby forest. There, four identical Hicks were fighting with the sorcerer. The bear goblin and the big goblin used bows and crossbows to attack him, but they pierced his body. The sharp teeth of the wolves pierced the shadow of Hicks and only bit the air. Aaron immediately recognized the magic, which was the second ring spell. Mirror Shadow, a favorite spell of many mages. It could create several of its own illusions, thus avoiding the caster from getting into close combat that they were not good at. Hicks laughed loudly at the enemy's leader. He recited the spell, 3 magic missiles were fired from his fingertips, and 3 phantoms followed the body to do the same action. It was really hard to tell which was true. The black-robed man sneered, "Naivety." A spell hit Hicks, causing the mage apprentice's body to stiffen. 3 illusions disappeared, magic missiles disappeared, and a flying javelin pierced the chest of the mage apprentice. Hicks's robe immediately oozed a large layer of dark red, and the mage apprentice let out a scream before being knocked down by the wolf. His body was torn apart by the wolf's sharp teeth, red, white, yellow, and black, and clumps of body tissue were thrown out from under the wolf's head. It's like pouring a big bucket of ice water mixed with ice cubes from head to toe on a hot day, and Aaron, who was just a little proud, fell into the ice cellar. This is an enemy that one cannot currently match. Although not a spellcaster, Aaron still recognizes that spell. Triple Ring Magic. Relieve magic, which can instantly dispel spells related to the triple ring and below. Among the spellcasters, the third ring magic is a hurdle. The other party is obviously a second-level elite spellcaster, and I am a first-level apprentice rookie. Just awakened, my body surface is bruised, my internal organs are bleeding, not to mention there are more than a dozen orcs around the other party. This is not an enemy that one can fight against. Aaron yelled at his pride again, "Wake up, you idiot." He knew himself well, and the original Aaron Salian was stubborn. At this moment, he would definitely shout, for the sake of Comer, and choose to die heroically. He had a strong will to die. It's just that the old Aaron would do this, the new Aaron wouldn't do such a foolish thing. There was only one solution left. Aaron searched for his newly awakened memories, searching for useful spells. Found it. Aaron pulled out the dagger from his waist and made a blood cut in the palm of his hand, speaking kindly to his ogre friend, "Friend, I want to give you a mark, otherwise my family may not know you, and they won't give you meat. Okay, hurry up, Gulk is hungry. The ogre nodded. The charm is still working. A few minutes later. Gulk. What are you doing? Bring that son of Baal to me quickly, don't you want to eat meat? The black-robed one had already shifted his attention to the motionless ogre. The ogre stood still in place. Gulk. The black-robed man saw Gulk slowly turn around and was about to curse, but immediately noticed a pattern on the ogre's stomach that had just been drawn with blood. That pattern was something the black-robed man had never seen before, and it looked like a mark made up of a mix of a male symbol and a female symbol. He felt the magic from above the mark. The black-robed man immediately waved his hand to signal the orcs to step back. Lord Mepham, Gulk is so hot, the ogre said blankly. Gulk's stomach is so hot, Gulk is getting bigger, step back. The black robe felt uncomfortable. Grow up. In the final roar of the ogre, it swelled up like a balloon, with clusters of proliferating flesh bulging from all over his body, covering the ogre's face in layers of flesh. The ogre's facial features gradually unfolded irregularly as it grew, and its hands disappeared. Instead, two huge tentacles danced vigorously in the air. Eat meat. Eat meat. The 2-meter-tall ogre transformed into a meatball that was over 3 meters high. It roared and charged forward, each step causing the ground to vibrate uncontrollably. Hungry rage turned into a weapon, and with each jump, 2 tentacles grabbed a bear goblin off the ground, biting off half of its face in one bite, and chewing on the flesh, organs, and bones in its mouth. Juice burst out between its teeth. What is this? What exactly is this? Another bite, the bear goblin had already been bitten off by the meatball. The meatball let out a roar and threw the headless body of the bear goblin towards the front, bouncing closer and closer, feeling a strong sense of pressure. The black-robed man took out an octopus tentacle soaked in acid from his pocket. The plan has changed. No matter what's going on, that kid is lucky to solve this chaotic beast first. I am the dividing line of the chaotic beast, MMM. The scenery in front of him swayed back and forth, and Aaron stepped out of his legs and ran wildly in the forest of kings. His face was pale, and although the large wound on his palm was wrapped in a torn robe, blood was still oozing out. The weakness caused by excessive blood loss gradually replaced his 5 senses, but Aaron dared not stop. He just ran wildly, relying on the position of the sun. Aaron roughly judged where he was in the forest of kings and collapsed in one direction. He drew a magic formation with his own blood, consumed all his mana and injected it into the formation, causing the ogre brother to undergo a physical mutation and become a chaotic egg without any reason, which would indiscriminately attack all edible creatures. This chaotic egg should be able to hold back the sorcerer and that group of orcs for a while. This was the only way Aaron could think of breaking the deadlock at the time. This mutated magic is a unique bloodline magic that requires injecting a large amount of blood. The lower the intelligence of the casting object, the better, so that it can allow itself to paint on it, and then cannot resist the impulse brought by the emblem, losing rationality and going crazy. Aaron is very weak now, really weak. If it weren't for the low intelligence of ogres and their easily controlled brain by appetite, his spell would have had almost no chance of success. He didn't know how long the ogre could hold on to that sorcerer, but it shouldn't be too long. The ogre that turned into a chaos egg would attack everyone indiscriminately until it exhausted all its energy and strength, and then die. Wearing heavy lock armor on his body, running is really not fast. After only a few minutes, weak Aaron was already sweating profusely, but he knew it was not the time to stop and could only act with all his might. The withered branches and fallen leaves swept over the handsome face of the Viscount, and his heavy footsteps always sank slightly on the humus of the forest floor. The originally warm and comfortable sunlight became annoying, and his palms were still painful. I really didn't exercise well. Aaron, you always feel that your father is too demanding of you, so you like to take a break and slack off. Do you know why you're doing this now? The young Viscount cursed himself, and the awakened personality cursed the personality before awakening. After running for more than 10 minutes, Aaron really felt that his physical strength couldn't keep up. The scenery in front of him began to blur, and every injured part of his body felt a sense of pain and weakness. His feet on the ground were like stepping on cotton, and he couldn't exert any force. The fresh spring breeze blowing over his face only made him feel numb. When he tried to step over the big tree, his foot stumbled on the root of the tree, and Aaron, who couldn't control his body, fell directly with his head to the ground. Afterwards, he knew nothing. In the moment when he passed out of consciousness, a helpless and sorrowful thought emerged from his mind. It's better not to wake up after experiencing this. What should I do myself? What should I do for my future? 2 eyes turned black. At the same time, in the forest about 2 kilometers away from where Aaron was unconscious, 2 wolves, 1 bear goblin, and 1 incomplete body of a goblin scattered on the ground. The once arrogant chaotic egg now looks like a deflated ball, with layers of flesh and veins covered in tumors all deflated. It can be vaguely distinguished from the appearance of the ogre Gulk before his death. However, at this time, the ogre has become more than 3 times thinner than before, and the wounds all over its body show that it has died and can no longer die. The black-robed man put down his hand and let out a tired breath. In order to deal with this rough and fleshy mutated meatball, he paid the price of 4 subordinates and 1 spell. Triple ring magic, Hadda's desire. This magic comes from his former ruler, the Patriarch, and its effect is to open up a realm that connects to the darkness of the stars and is filled with unknown terrifying objects. Form a dark area centered around a point within the casting distance and cause direct damage to the creatures in the area. The Chaos Egg was dragged into this area, and in a state of madness, Gulk was clearly unable to instinctively leave the area. Eventually, he was surrounded by continuous freezing and acid damage and exhausted. In addition, with the previous 3-ring magic to dispel magic, the black-robed man's remaining magic is limited. Sir, what should we do? Should we go after that ball god son? The goblin was obviously not satisfied with the outcome of this encounter. The difference between goblins and big goblins is just 1 word, but the difference between them is extremely huge. Goblins are a group of extremely weak and chaotic evil creatures, while big goblins have stronger bodies than humans, strict order, and a military style of law-abiding evil creatures. No, we should leave quickly and find a place to rest. The black-robed man took a long breath, his tone quite regretful and a bit regretful. Did you see that? The young son of Bar is a purple dragon knight supplement. We just didn't take him down, and there is a high possibility that he will be wanted later. Obezel, the purple dragon knights, and the Wormage, 3 stone pillars support this country. We can also locate him through tracking. He's seriously injured and can't run far. Yes, he can't run far, but the Temple of the Lord of Dawn and the Temple of the Silver Virgin are also not far from here. The black-robed man scolded, there are also believers of the Lucky Lady and those damn druids. We can't take risks, this is all for the Supreme Lord of the Dark Sun. The goblin didn't say anything more. Strange. The black-robed man paused and his tone gradually became puzzled. Is the divine sun lurking among the purple dragon knights, the divine son of Bar? But previous intelligence shows that the other party is more like the god of tyranny. Forget it, withdraw. Updated, Ticket Duck. Attached are the attributes of the current protagonist, 5e. Strength 14, Physical Fitness 14, Agility 14, Intelligence 14, Perception 14, Charm 14, a very mediocre person. End of this chapter. Chapter 3, Our Lady of Silver. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3, Our Lady of Silver. I don't know how long it has been. Aaron finally woke up from the darkness. Before he could open his eyes, the young Viscount felt a strong sense of tightness. He suddenly woke up and found himself lying inside an open-air building, with several heavy ropes firmly tying him to a simple wooden bed. Oh no, am I still captured? The Viscount struggled hard for a moment, only to find that he couldn't break free. The rope tied to him was thicker than his thumb, and the person who bound him was obviously an old hand. The yellow-brown rope was firmly tied to his body, so he couldn't exert any force. He struggled a few times, but soon gave up. Moreover, Aaron could vaguely feel that being bound like this was a completely new stimulating experience, and his brain began to get excited again. Stimulating, Momo. The excitement sustained his sanity, and Aaron turned his gaze to the nearby area. This is a large open-air building, with a pure white stone structure standing in the forest, forming the walls of the building. The gaps in the ground paved with stone slabs grow lush grass, and the sunlight falling from the shade of the trees on the steps sways with the gentle spring breeze. Not far from the eye, a huge jade statue stands proudly in the open air, with its hands outstretched and a circle of backlit sculptures representing the changes of the moon's brightness. The statue is a beautiful woman with slender legs and a graceful figure, who looks about the same age as a human being in her 20s and 40s. She has straight, cascading hair, bangs on her forehead, and a perfect face. Her captivating eyes are set in emeralds, gazing ahead with a hint of sadness. Who? Aaron immediately took a long breath, and his previously tense muscles immediately relaxed. I'm safe for now. This is the open air altar of Our Lady of Silver. If his memory is correct, this is the town of Shanghai, and there is only one large open-air altar of Our Lady of Silver in the entire kingdom. It's okay, at least temporarily. Aaron closed his eyes and relaxed his body. The joy of surviving the disaster made him smile uncontrollably. If the previously headless Voke was a pan-believer, it is not clear who Aaron is now after awakening his memories from his past life. However, there is no doubt that the Salian family he belongs to is a devout family. Although the Salian family sometimes donates to other divine churches, they have been steadfast believers of the Silver Virgin Mary for generations. He has a small shrine for the Silver Virgin Mary in his family, and his entire family worships the Silver Virgin Mary. Whenever he has time, he participates in weekly worship activities. He visits this large open-air altar of the Silver Virgin Mary in Shanghai town at least twice a year, sometimes 3 times a year. At least here, Aaron believes he is safe. He began to think. Aaron has seen many strange ways of crossing, some jumping off buildings, some being killed, some being hit by mud trucks, some being selected, but he has never seen such a way of crossing. He traveled while queuing. At the moment when the staff poked the cotton swab at his throat, he crossed over. He was just an ordinary department clerk in his past life, with an average family background. His parents were both ordinary grassroots public officials, although not wealthy, they were definitely not poor. After graduation, he entered the system and began a plain life. I worked according to standards, and it was my job to do it slowly. If it wasn't my job, I firmly pushed it out. In his spare time, Aaron is a person with a wide range of interests and hobbies. So of course he knew what those 4 gods were. In his past life, he was a devoted fan of hammers, and there were many chess players in his family. However, the expensive price also put a lot of burden on Aaron. Thinking of this, Aaron really didn't know whether to cry or laugh. He had a special fondness for hammer in his past life, loved playing hammer games, discussing hammer settings, and playing jokes everywhere. But that doesn't mean he really wants to go to Hammer World to play. Fortunately, the world Aaron traveled to was not Hammer World. Based on his previous memories and the Son of Baal and Supreme Dark Sun in the black-robed population, it can be easily inferred that this world is not Hammer World, but also the equally famous Forgotten Kingdom. This is a good thing. However, the problem also lies here. Compared to his superficial understanding of the Hammer World, Aaron has little knowledge of the Forgotten Country. His only knowledge comes from a few well-known characters and some online novels with Chinese characteristics, such as the 2 innovations, 3 innovations, 4 innovations, and N innovations. For example, there are many fan fiction novels such as Bode's Gate, Ilminster, Chainham, and Karsas, as well as many others such as Ilminster in October, Ilminster in Somalia, Ilminster in Verdun, and Ilminster in Old Trafford. He only has a slight advantage in the foresight of the traveler, only a little bit. Aaron pursed his lips and could only console himself optimistically. Victory lies in not crossing over to become a commoner in the lower echelons of the Nest City. Still pondering his own situation, he heard several voices outside discussing him, probably 2 young women and a few mature women. This is not surprising for the Church of Our Lady of Silver. The Silver Virgin, also known as the Silver Moon Lady, the Moon Maiden, the White Night Lady, and the Guide, is one of the 2 original goddesses of the kingdom. Her followers are mostly women, especially adult women. The church of this deity also regards many symbols of women, even human milk, as sacred objects. This is a kind goddess who does not demand much from her followers and always accepts all mortals who are willing to believe in her with tolerance. She rarely demands her followers and is widely believed to have bestowed freedom as a gift and grace upon mortals. Her doctrine of equality among all living beings, advocating for mutual love, uniting faithful, respecting life, and providing assistance to those in need to the best of her ability can be said to be the original state of most religions and many doctrines in Aaron's past life. Aaron quickly closed his eyes, he still had to be cautious. "How is Viscount Salian doing?" said a mature maternal voice, which was very gentle. "He seems to have been cast a spell. Judging from his previous madness, it's really scary. He was seriously injured and may have been hit by a mental spell." Lown and his team found the body of the war mage apprentice Hicks in the King's Forest, scattered everywhere, with most of it eaten in less than 30% found. A cold and elegant voice with a clear spring-like voice replied, "They were attacked. Hey, our Viscount can actually escape from the situation of spiritual spells, it's amazing." A rough and carefree female chuckled, "I thought this kid's level was not that good, but I didn't expect him to have such skills." "No, not bad anyway, fortunately, Asha and I happened to pass by and save him," said the voice of the clear spring in the mountain stream. "He shouldn't have died like this, it's unfair to him and his family." "Yes, we all know he's the last Salian," the mature maternal voice agreed. "Go see how he's doing, Eleanor, Asha." Aaron, who was tied to the bed, has collected enough information. They know who they are, and so are everyone old acquaintances. He was saved by Eleanor and Asha. He should have gone crazy before and was subdued, so he was tied up here and treated as a patient by the priests of the Silver Virgin Church. As for why he went crazy, Aaron was very clear, extremely clear. Why did he not leave any memory after being blessed by the 4 gods, but instead was born into an ordinary noble family and lived until the age of 18? The reason is very simple. That is, the blessings of the 4 gods are not something that ordinary people can bear at will. This power is too powerful, so powerful that ordinary people cannot bear the power of the 4 powerful gods. Once Aaron could not control this power at all, which was equivalent to requiring a pony to transport the goods of dozens of railway wagons, which was equivalent to an i9 CPU used to run the Shenhua the Taihu Lake Light supercomputer, which was equivalent to a spaceship burning coal for interstellar navigation. What cannot be achieved? The human body has a self-protection mechanism, and in order to protect Aaron's fragile body, these things are subconsciously sealed by the body to avoid collapse. This forms a paradox. In order to utilize the powerful power of the 4 gods, one must possess powerful power. To possess powerful power, one must activate the divine power of the 4 gods. From birth until the age of 18, Aaron has lived as an ordinary person due to his self-protection mechanism. He might never have had the chance to break free from the closed loop of this paradox. It was not until the previous encounter, the first murder, Volk's flying head, and the fear and excitement of touching death, that the power of one of the gods was finally activated. The massive energy brought by the extreme emotions of the human body broke through the seal, awakening him. This deity is particularly fond of finding excitement. No wonder in an anime he watched in his past life, a very petite and cute little animal wanted to use human emotional energy to resist the entropy increase of the universe and avoid heat death. Emotional energy comes and goes quickly, so he will go crazy unconsciously, which is also to protect himself. After thinking for a moment, the sound of light and heavy footsteps also came to Aaron's bed. "Wake up, Your Highness Salian." A rough slap was placed on Aaron's shoulder, and his rough voice sounded like a bass horn in Aaron's ear. "Wake up." Aaron felt as if his head had been hit by a cannon, with stars in his eyes. He pretended to have just woken up and looked blankly at the two people standing by the bed. The woman shaking him was a savage, tall and strong, with large, tangled muscles that were as hard as large pieces of black bread. Under the two huge shoulder armor hung two furry shawls, and rough leather gloves pressed against his shoulder, fitting her full and sturdy chest armor, which was covered in scars left by knives, guns, and sticks. Her face was coated with thick oil paint, and Aaron couldn't see it clearly due to the backlight, but he could still see her facial features. Brown skin, a wide and flat nose, low heels, protruding lips, thick lips, and a big mouth. He recognized her, Asha the barbarian woman, a twisted and violent muscular woman, who believed in the silver virgin Suellen. "Hello, Your Highness Salian, be clear-headed." The barbarian woman was still shaking him, and another girl quickly spoke up to stop him. "Be gentle, Asha. If you do this, his head will be shaken off by you." Aaron then turned his gaze to the second woman. This is a young girl, probably of her own age. Compared to a female barbarian, her figure is perfect. A pure white pastor's robe embroidered with silver patterns showcases her beautiful waistline, and her golden and gorgeous hair is carefully trimmed to a refreshing short hairstyle on her forehead and temples. The long hair at the back of her head is combed into a large ponytail that hangs down from the back of her head and is fixed with a simple headband. Inside the pastor's robe, one can vaguely see a silver breastplate and a blue lining. There is a necklace with angel wings hanging on the chest, and the girl has a delicate melon seed face. The only regret is that she is wearing a mask with a silver emblem of the Virgin Mary, with only a delicate and beautiful touch of cherry lips exposed outside. Aaron also recognized her, Eleanor Dynefur, a priestess from the Silver Notre Dame Church, a semi-elf known as the Flower of the Deep Sea, whom he had dealt with several times. Seeing Lord Salian open his eyes and look at him in confusion, the young pastor's tone paused. "Did you wake up? Do you remember who you are?" "I seem to remember, but I don't seem to remember," Aaron pretended to be confused. "It seems that the most basic consciousness is still there." The pastor extended a finger and placed it in front of Aaron. "Come, tell me, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 3, 3, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 114, 514, A memory surged out of his mind, and Aaron roared immediately. "It seems like you're okay," said the young pastor. Seeing Aaron so energetic, the faint concern in her tone immediately disappeared. "If you're okay, get up, Asha, let him go." "Okay." The barbarian woman directly took action. "Miss Eleanor, don't you welcome me as a patient?" Aaron knew he was a bit off guard and quickly squeezed out a smile. "The Silver Virgin Church should treat everyone fairly. Your presence is taking up our medical resources, and you should give these resources to those who need more help." The pastor looked at the barbarian woman as she untied Aaron's grip. "You are Salian, you can go back to Susar for better medical care, instead of fighting for a bed with those who are penniless or in urgent need of treatment." "Yes, I know." The rope on Aaron's body was untied, but he still didn't get up. But I really need some food now. I'm starving to death, my lady. The female barbarian Asha next to her immediately gave a fierce look, and Aaron immediately added, 2 ladies. Asha then withdrew her fierce gaze and spat. She hates others not treating her like a woman the most. The semi-elf pastor lady around her dislikes others seeing her as a beautiful woman the most, so she always wears a mask. Aaron didn't lie, he was really hungry. As is well known, humans have 3 major desires: appetite, reputation, and sleep desire. The pastor quickly picked up the classic adventure wilderness 3-piece set. Bacon jerky, black bread, and a bland and sour ale. There's only these here. Aaron didn't speak, he wolfed down his food. After packing his stomach, Aaron didn't hesitate and said, I have something to ask His Excellency the chief priest of the altar. Please take me over to meet her. What do you need to see her for? I think the most important thing you should do now is to go back to Susar immediately and report on what happened to you. The pastor asked calmly, waiting for Aaron's answer. I want to seek help from the Great Silver Virgin. Aaron said word by word. The energy brought by extreme emotions is slowly fading away. If this continues, his body will soon disintegrate, and the sealed power of the 4 gods will leak out and directly destroy him. He must find a way to save himself. Come with me. Updated, today I wrote the 2nd update with all my might. Please support me. End of this chapter. Chapter 4, Miracle Art. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4, Miracle Art. As one of the 2 oldest goddesses of origin in the country, the belief of the Silver Virgin has branches all over the continent. Although because of the eternal war of origin that continues to this day, the Silver Virgin lost most of her divine duties in the battle with her twin sisters, the Dark Night Lady, resulting in a great decline in her strength. Once, she was forced to seek the protection of other gods and become the follower of others. His influence still has not faded. The believers of the Silver Virgin in the country are not the strongest group, nor the largest group, but have a lot of influence. Aaron followed behind the young pastor, his footsteps still floating in his body in poor condition. The large open-air altar in Qinghai town is the center of faith for the Silver Virgin Church in this country. As the 2 walked out of the ward, Aaron saw more people. Under the bright sky, in the dense shade of trees, by the clear pond, the guards and priests of the Silver Virgin are treating several injured animalistic adventurers. One of the adventurers has a pair of furry cat ears and round cat claws, covering her head to receive treatment from a female holy warrior. Beast ear mother. Aaron couldn't help but take a few more glances. So cute. Animal-like disease is an extremely terrifying infectious disease in the country, which can gradually turn infected individuals into animal-like humans controlled by appetite and killing desires, and there is almost no cure. The only hope is the redemption of the Silver Virgin Mary. Good and neutral animal-like humans almost all believe in this deity, while evil animal-like humans are mostly followers of the hunting god Mara. The young pastor who was leading the way noticed Aaron's movements. She walked slowly and spoke sternly, "What are you thinking?" Ah. Aaron hesitated for a moment, then he realized that the pastor lady would be mistaken. Am I that bad? Before, you never looked at them too much. The pastor turned around and danced in the air with her silver-embroidered robe. Her thick ponytail swayed, bringing the fragrance of a bellflower. They are not welcomed by humans, they are considered cursed by humans, aren't they? What you said is not wrong. Aaron nodded slightly, and the young Viscount turned his gaze to the guard not far from the entrance of the altar. I was just thinking, what is so-called justice? These animalistic people who are being treated by you are also animalistic people. Those who have caused countless disasters to the kingdom and even the whole country are also animalistic people. I should have hated them, but I just think they are very cute. This shows that humans are emotional animals who like to give evaluations based on their appearance. Secondly, it shows that even noble children like you have grown after experiencing life and death. The pastor's eyes, behind her mask, stared at him, giving her a familiar yet unfamiliar feeling. Hey, aren't you half-elves who care most about your appearance? Aaron immediately roast. Caesar's law stipulates that you can enter the city as long as you meet the conditions, but I really saw your half-elves gathering place. When you saw ugly, short guys, they refused to enter. They are half-elves. And I, Eleanor. The pastor seemed to have been pricked, and her attitude changed to a slightly irritable one. Don't mix me up with them. Yes, you're not a half-elf, you're Eleanor, Aaron said calmly. And I'm Aaron, a human, or a viscount, right? I'm sorry, I have some stereotypes. The young pastor's face was stained with a hint of crimson by Aaron's words, and her delicate pink face blushed with shame. Her tone gradually softened. I apologize to you. I accept it. Aaron had no intention of arguing with her, he just wanted to hurry up. Otherwise, if that ogre Gulk grows bigger, it will be the end of Aaron. Eleanor's mind was filled with doubts. She always felt that the man in front of her was a bit different from the Aaron Salian she remembered. They had seen each other many times, and every year during the Silver Virgin Mary holiday, Aaron would appear with his family. In Eleanor's impression, Aaron was a mediocre aristocratic son, cautious and dignified, with a considerable aristocratic pride and a sense of superiority. However, his good upbringing and discipline made him carefully cover himself up. For example, in this group of beastly people, Aaron used to feel that he was afraid of the curse of beastly diseases spreading to him during festivals, so Eleanor always kept a distance. However, he often pretended to be as friendly and non-discriminatory as possible, shook hands with the beastly people wearing gloves, and even gave them gifts. There was a joke among the pastors and paladins that the greatest advantage of this last Viscount Salian was that he had no flaws, and the greatest flaw was that he had no flaws. Eleanor used to think the same way, until today. You saved my life, Miss Eleanor. You are my benefactor, and I am the one who should thank you. Aaron said seriously, I can swear to the Silver Virgin Mary that I will repay the kindness of saving my life. If saving a person's life is only for the sake of a reward, then what is the difference between us and the cunning followers of the Night Lady? Eleanor shook her head and said, true kindness should not be based on kindness that receives rewards. When you expect to save someone for something, then perhaps the Silver Virgin is not suitable for you. Learned. Aaron pondered for a few seconds and respectfully treated the young pastor with noble etiquette. Miss Eleanor's words have taught me something. Is this person really Aaron Salian? The young pastor couldn't help but glance at him again. It seems that I misread before. This is a person with dragon scales on his belly, referring to Natio, and he is not as simple as he appeared before. Thinking of his background, the pastor let out a soft sigh. Neither of them spoke again. Aaron shifted his attention to this altar. Su Luan is a goddess from a chaotic and kind camp. Unlike the Order camp, she has almost no requirements for her temple. Sometimes, her temple can be a few stones erected in the wilderness to mark the boundaries, and a silver moon shrine can be placed in the center. It can also be a magnificent temple, which this goddess does not care about. Only a shimmering pond and a garden reflecting the goddess's glow under the moonlight are indispensable. As Aaron gradually entered the core area of the open-air altar, he could feel the divine power of the Silver Virgin filling every corner of the center of the altar. During the day, the surface of the building here was also shrouded in a layer of moonlight. Upon closer inspection, layers of moonlight flowed along the walls of the temple like waves, and the war between the Silver Virgin and the Night Lady was carved on the walls. From their origins to the present, their struggle for supremacy has never stopped. The majority of people who come and go are women, ranging from young girls as young as 7 or 8 years old to elderly women with gray hair. Unlike some deities who only require uniform attire, the Silver Virgin Mary Church does not have many requirements for attire. There are noble women dressed in splendid attire, with precious gems in their hands and flower crowns on their heads, as well as old women wearing only brown linen robes, dressed in simple and shabby clothes, with sweat on their foreheads holding a basin of water. Eleanor brought Aaron to the center of the temple, where a 6-meter-tall statue of the Virgin Mary stood with a silver moon in her hands and a mournful face overlooking all living beings. The young pastor asked Aaron to wait here for a moment, and she went in to report. Aaron stood still without any movement. In a kingdom, temples are actually a dangerous place because the temples of the gods often serve as both fortresses and shelters. Here, the divine power of the gods attaches to shrines, sculptures, sacred objects, books, murals, and other landmarks. As long as the divine power of the gods is not exhausted, it will not easily fall. So in many siege battles, the temple is often the last battlefield. He felt as if the moonlight had noticed him, and the flowing light gradually gathered around him. Salian, what do you need to help the great silver virgin? A noblewoman dressed in a luxurious silk dress stepped out of the temple. She had a plump figure, dressed elegantly, with jewelry on her hands, pearls inlaid on her sleeves and neckline, and a pair of high-heeled deer leather boots. 2 silver chains swayed gently with her steps, embroidered with patterns of grapevines and the moon. Her long hair was tied into a noblewoman's hairstyle by a delicate crescent crown. Of course, what caught Aaron's attention was that her gorgeous dress was low-cut. Her child can eat until at least 1.5 years old, right? She is the chief high priest of this open-air altar, the Silver Star Lady. He couldn't help but take 2 more glances, cleared his throat, and changed his tone to a humble one. Yes, I have encountered some trouble, and I must ask for the grace of the Silver Virgin. Only he can save me. Ms. Silver Star's face showed surprise, with moonlight shining in her eyes. She stared at Aaron and said, even regeneration is not possible. Ms. Silver Star is a master priest and a quasi-legendary powerhouse. As long as she is willing, not to mention that all the wounds have healed, even if there is only a head left, as long as it hasn't died completely, she can create a living person again. I don't know, I have been struck by a spell that has caused devastating damage to my body and soul, Aaron earnestly pleaded, the energy of this spell is still within me to this day. Ms. Silver Star was even more surprised. She opened her eyes wide, and her fair face was filled with an incredible expression. So you're still alive? Aaron nodded awkwardly and said, I don't know how I survived either. I was hit by a spell released by the old master of the sorcerer's domination. Yes, there are also situations where regeneration techniques cannot be restored, such as curses and persistent magic, which cannot be dispelled, remaining on the injured person's body. In this case, regeneration techniques can only help the recipient recover their body, and the negative effects will continue to exist. You are such a boy who survived a great disaster, the last Salian. Ms. Silver Star's surprised expression had not yet recovered, as she had never seen such a situation before. The negative energy spells of this continuous curse are all high-ring magic and high-ring divine spells. If she were to be hit, she wouldn't have a chance of surviving from the spells. However, this Viscount only has a first-level apprentice-level strength, and he is not dead yet. He can still move and speak. The Silver Virgin is above, this is simply a miracle. The young pastor standing by was also surprised. She opened her mouth, but in the end, she didn't say anything. She believes that the great Silver Virgin will make fair decisions. The words that Ms. Silver Star had originally intended to refuse stopped at the corner of her mouth. She reached out to hold on to Aaron's head, and the sacred moonlight enveloped the young man kneeling on one knee. That's right, there is indeed a negative energy in your body that is eroding you. After speaking, she didn't make any bigger moves, but remained silent here. Dad, the gods do not dwell in the mortal world, so why do they need a temple? Foolish child, the temple is a place where gods only do business with mortals. National jokes. This joke clearly illustrates the relationship between mortals and gods, as well as the role played by temples in it. Rebirth is a 7-ring divine spell and the strongest divine spell that the Silver Star Lady can currently release. Releasing it is a huge burden for the Silver Star Lady, and she needs to pay a huge price and be weak for a long time. If regeneration techniques cannot cure the young man in front of her, then she only has one choice. To use the divine power stored in the open-air altar to release the 9 rings miracle technique and seek the help of the Silver Virgin Sullen. This means she has to pay for the accumulated divine power stored in this altar for decades or even centuries, and she needs to consume all the effort she has made since serving as the chief high priest for this young person. These costs are almost indescribable in terms of money. Aaron felt the other person's hesitation, and the young Viscount immediately said, "Miss Silver Star, I am willing to pay the price, but I don't have so much money now. I can only swear that I will repay the Silver Virgin for everything she has done for me. I can sell my mansion in Susar. I am Viscount Salian, and the royal family gives me an annual salary of 800 gold lion coins. I can donate 500. No, 600 to the church." When Aaron spoke these words, he was very clear about his situation. Seeing that Lady Silver Star was still hesitating, he gritted his teeth and continued, "In addition, there are some relics, antiques, souvenirs, weapons, and jewelry left by my parents at home. Please give me some time to sell them, and I will definitely repay them." "Not enough." Ms. Silver Star shook her head slightly as she looked at Aaron's resolute expression, her eyes filled with thick memories. Aaron's face turned pale, and he took a few deep breaths. After thinking for a moment, he said, "The Salian family has revered the Silver Virgin Mary for generations. Since their ancestor Lyodorf, the family has been passed down for 700 years. I still remember how you looked when you came here with Manuel to participate in festivals when you were a child." Ms. Silver Star interrupted Aaron's words, her plump face showing a look of nostalgia. "I'm sorry about what happened to you, it's unfair to you. Things are so unpredictable, and in the face of sudden disasters, we can only accept them." Aaron seemed somewhat disappointed, but he spread his hand and wanted to get up. "In that case, I'm sorry to bother you. It seems that we can only try our luck in another place. Is that all for now? Follow me." Ms. Silver Star gestured for him to follow her. The release of the miracle technique requires a long preparation time, and whether you can get the help of the Silver Virgin depends on him. I can only wish you good luck, and finally, Salian. Ah. Yes. Aaron nodded in disappointment, and then an uncontrollable expression of ecstasy appeared on his face. This is the opportunity he fought for. His only chance to break the game. I am the only dividing line of opportunity. Aaron took off all his clothes and sat cross-legged naked in the center of the secret chamber inside the altar. With the singing of the Silver Star Lady, the murals on all sides of the Chamber of Secrets simultaneously shone with a bright silver moon, and the statues of the 4 goddesses lit up at the same time. The statues seemed to have come to life under the flowing moonlight, reflecting a pure white moonlight from all 4 directions onto Aaron's body. Aaron only felt a cold and comfortable sensation rising from within his body. He felt as if he had entered an illusory space, with a strong milky scent emanating from his mouth and nose. He opened his arms and said he had no ill intentions. There is someone who has accepted him. Aaron felt his soul continue to rise, following the radiance of the moon, his body becoming lighter and lighter. He seemed to have returned to the era of babbling as a baby. He tried to speak, but his mouth emitted a blurry milky sound. A pair of gentle hands held him in his arms, and in a daze, he seemed to see a woman full of love, staring at him with gentle eyes. He kept rising until the moon was right in front of him, until he landed on the moon. Under the moonlight, between 2 sacred white trees, stood a slender beauty under the moon. "Welcome, my child." She faced Aaron, spread out her hands, and 2 long transparent silver sheer sleeves fell to the ground along with her movements. The maternal light was as gentle as water on her body. "I heard you need my help. My child. Have you encountered any difficulties? Tell me, I will help you solve it. Updated, please follow us. End of this chapter. Chapter 5, Extraordinary Charm. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5, Extraordinary Charm. The Virgin of Silver, also known as Lady Inue, is one of the two oldest gods in the history of the country. When the god Ao created the national sky and the crystal wall system blocked the fuel, combustible, in outer space, Lady Inue and her sisters were born in the original nihility. Therefore, the Silver Virgin and the Lady of Night are the two oldest deities under the divine god Ao, who have shared all their priesthood. The Silver Virgin represents the first ray of light in the universe, while the Lady of Night represents the original darkness. As the country gradually took shape, a third deity, the Mother Earth, was born. In the extreme cold void, the Mother Earth prayed for warmth from the two original goddesses. Only the Silver Virgin responded to him, coming to the fire element plane to retrieve the eternal fire and using it to ignite a celestial body, the sun. Only then did the earth have light and heat, giving it vitality. However, this action angered the Night Lady. Unlike her sister who liked light, what she wanted was eternal darkness and absolute silence. The environment she had originally enjoyed was disrupted by her sister's actions. The younger sister began to attack the older sister, which is the origin of the eternal war that originally lasted until today. As the last Salian who has revered the Silver Virgin for generations, Aaron has memorized this story. When a story is repeated every week from his babbling to adulthood, he has no reason not to remember it. It's just that the version he listened to doesn't have the existence of the god Ao. The huge turmoil of the past 2 years only made ordinary people in the country realize that there is a god above the gods. Although Aaron now knows a little about the forgotten country, he has seen the struggle between the sisters of the gods 1919 times in his online articles. There is no reason not to know about the Holy One's Holocaust. From the very beginning, the Silver Virgin fell behind in this battle because darkness was eternal and light was fleeting. The younger sister was always able to use her power to extinguish her sister's radiance. The result of the two sides' war was that the Silver Virgin risked all her might, releasing most of her original source and causing heavy damage to her sister, thus temporarily winning the temporary victory of this war. The magic web and the first generation of magic goddess were also born from this. However, this self-destructive behavior of 2,000 and injuring 1,000 enemies caused the Silver Virgin to lose most of her strength, while the Black Lady's divine power was largely preserved. Her divine power gradually declined, and even for a period of time, she was forced to become the subordinate deity of the Fire Lady to seek protection. Aaron still remembers that his parents had an argument over this matter. His father went to attend the Fire Hair Lady's church and had a big body for a day and a night, but when he returned, he couldn't even stretch his legs and was in a daze. His mother had a big argument with him about it, and in the end, his father managed to pass the exam with the excuse that Silver Virgin Mary is the god of Fire Hair Lady. This statement caused a great shock to the young Aaron. After the end of the great disaster, the Silver Virgin Mary appeared multiple times in the disaster and fought alongside mortals for the stability and peace of the country, leaving behind many glorious deeds. Mortals were moved by her contributions, and many places began to believe in her again. As a result, her divine power was restored to medium divine power, and she peacefully broke up with the Fire Lady and became independent again. After passing through these events in his mind, Aaron focused his gaze on the two holy white trees standing in the center of a silver garden, surrounded by moonlight on the beautiful woman under the moon. Her figure looked blurry, and in Aaron's eyes, she was sometimes a young girl with a graceful figure, delicate features, fair skin, and a thin veil-long skirt. Her snow-white straight hair and bangs complemented her perfect appearance with a pair of captivating blue eyes. Sometimes, she was also a young girl with black hair and black eyes, wearing only a moonlight-like transparent gauze robe, staring at Aaron with a curious expression of, "Big brother, what are you doing?" It seems that he also realized that this form was not good, and the appearance of the beauty under the moon finally began to take shape. In front of Aaron was a mature imperial sister, who was about 20.7 or 8 years old. Her long, moonlight white hair naturally hung down from the back of her head, while the other part of her hair was put down and left on the smooth and tender face on the left side of the woman. She didn't put on any makeup, her long silver eyelashes flickered and looked extremely soft. Her crystal-clear eyes were full of motherhood, and her small lips and pink lips were tender with water. At this moment, she was standing in the garden, under the moonlight tree-tops, like a peaceful landscape painting. The light blue velvet chiffon long dress was miraculously plump and high, with a white pearl necklace tied to its slender neck. Below it was a pair of slender jade legs wrapped in a romantic fragrance of light blue and clear sky, reflecting a scorching radiance under the moonlight. At this moment, the two beautiful legs overlapped, and the bare feet stepped on the ground of the garden. The small toes shone like white jade, and the round ankles tiptoed slightly, giving an indescribable beauty of tranquility. She is the Silver Virgin Mary, a deity revered by the Salian family of Aaron for 700 years since the reign of their ancestor Liudorf, and one of the oldest deities in the kingdom. This is the Dharma appearance of Ms. Inue. Why don't you bow down after seeing Suluan? When Aaron was led into the garden, the Viscount, who sought help from others, immediately knelt down and lowered his head, saying, "My lord. Your soul is very resilient, Salian, my child. Not every soul can look directly at the gods." Ms. Silver Moon's voice was full of motherhood, and her words nourished Aaron's tired and declining soul like a clear spring. It was also like the moonlight guidance that a traveler saw when getting lost in the Black Forest. Her words made Aaron involuntarily relax, and his tense state was greatly relieved. "I already know about your parents' affairs. I'm sorry, I couldn't do anything for Manuel and Elizabeth at that time. You don't have to, nor should you take any responsibility for your father and mother's affairs. My lord, they have eaten your wealth and sacrificed their lives for the country. I am proud of them." Aaron shook his head slightly, trying to control his expression, making himself like a strong and slightly sad devout believer. However, the Silver Virgin was able to remember her parents and name them among countless believers, which made Aaron feel a little at ease. This matter cannot be blamed from any angle on the Silver Virgin. When her parents died in battle, the Silver Virgin was opening a shop in Deepwater City. Yes, before the turbulent year, the chaotic nature of he had a sudden idea and gave up most of his divine power to walk in the mortal world as a saint. He opened a small bar and hotel in Deepwater City and lived his own little life, experiencing the life of mortals. As a result, her younger sister, Lady Black, took advantage of this opportunity to disguise herself as the true Silver Virgin and appeared in front of Suluan. In the turbulent year, she was cut off from the divine kingdom, and the goddess, whose power and memory were affected, saw her appear in front of her. She was mentally disoriented and was caught and imprisoned by her younger sister, who almost brainwashed her into the Lady Black's divine selection. Fortunately, a group of adventurers, legends, rescued her. The sister who regained her strength defeated her sister and threw her to the spire of deep water. This incident is also widely circulated and is considered another major victory for the Silver Moon Lady over the Black Knight Lady. Deepwater City has also become his holy site for the church. Every year, believers hold grand celebrations under the leadership of the high-level Moonlight Festival, and perform how the Silver Moon Lady uses her hammer to defeat the Black Knight Lady in a live stage play, repeatedly whipping the corpse. Aaron didn't speak anymore, he knelt down in silence, waiting for the divine's decision. The goddess seemed to be pondering something, and after more than 10 seconds, he noticed that Aaron was still kneeling, with a hint of softness flashing in his beautiful eyes. "Get up, I already know about you. That sorcerer is a servant of Shrek. He was ordered by Shrek to capture the sons of Bane and Bar, in order to completely eliminate the influence of the three gods of death." "Sure enough, it's Shrek." Aaron's gaze fixed as he stood up from the ground and nodded, "Yes, my lord. The sorcerer named Mepham once said to me, 'Son of Baal, I will offer you to the supreme dark Sunday, but you are not the son of Baal.'" The goddess pursed her lips and chuckled lightly, her bright eyes reflecting Aaron's appearance. Baal and Bane both foresaw their possible fall early on, so they sent incarnations multiple times to leave a large number of offspring in the kingdom. I'm not sure what you are, but you're definitely not the son of Baal. I watched your father and mother grow up, and you're both my children. Yes, my lord perceives everything, Aaron said, but his heart skipped a beat. Has the goddess discovered anything? I can't do justice for you now, Salian. Speaking of Shrek, the slender willow eyebrows of the goddess furrowed slightly. Shrek has found the stone of fate, and he has received the approval of Ao. His power is like the noon sun. He not only gathers all the power of the three gods of death, but also obtains the priesthood of betrayal, lies, and murder. He just killed the phantom goddess Layla and obtained the priesthood of illusion and fraud from him. Shrek's current power is even stronger than the ancient god of death in its heyday. Let gods return to God, and mortals return to mortals. My lord, this is the enmity between me and Mepham. I will settle this account with him. What I pray for, what I urgently need, is to eliminate the negative energy in my body. My lord, this is your servant's humble request. Aaron said urgently, I am willing to pay any price for it, no matter what. Please believe in my sincerity, my lord. I can sign a contract and give everything for it. I can promise to build the most magnificent temple in history for you in the center of the kingdom in the future. I can fight for you, to make the believers of the Night Lady understand who is the Master of Heaven. Aaron became more and more urgent as he spoke, his promises spitting out like a barrage of bullets from his mouth. This is the most crucial moment, and also his only opportunity. He cannot miss this opportunity. He could already feel that as his emotions subsided, the energy that supported him gradually dissipated. The power of that deity was closing, relying on the first killing, witnessing his partner being killed for the first time, and activating the power of sin through the stimulation of the first edge of life and death. At the moment of closure, it also means he will die. He knows how powerful those four gods are, knows his potential, knows he can do it, he can promise, he can pay almost all the price for it. He wants to live on. The seven rings divine arts cannot solve his problem, so the only opportunity is the power of the gods. This is his only hope, and he understands the principle of equivalent substitution. Since there is a demand, there must be a reward. It's really not possible. First, pretend to change your faith, and then repent later. At this moment, the Viscount was a drowning person, willing to pay any price in despair. He's about to die. Enough. Ms. Silvermoon's voice was slightly amplified, and Aaron looked up in surprise. She saw her delicate willow eyebrows tightly wrinkled together, while a slight blush surged under Bijah's snowy neck. Her two crossed and stacked moon-white legs were tightly stretched, and her fair and delicate instep was particularly smooth under a layer of transparent moonlight. Her 5 exposed green and white jade toes were crystal clear and full, and she lightly stomped towards the ground. Come here. Does the goddess seem angry? Aaron, who was uneasy in his heart, dared not neglect. He lowered his head and followed the goddess's bare feet through the garden under the moonlight. With a nervous heart, Aaron didn't even have time to pay attention to the beautiful scenery around him. Ms. Inouye seemed to have a faint milky scent on her body, and she didn't speak along the way. One person and one deity arrived at a small pond, and Lady Inouye extended her hands into the air. Under his guidance, the moonlight turned into moonlight, and a milky white, glowing viscous fluid flowed along his hands into the pond. Go down. Aaron immediately stepped into the pond, and the warm water gradually covered his whole body, spreading along with the moonlight. He quickly became drowsy. The last question. The goddess's faint and gentle voice reached Aaron's ear. Is it true that the negative energy left in your body, as you said, was left by the former ruler of that sorcerer? Oh no. Aaron gave a sudden jolt, a chill rising from the bottom of his body to his head, his brain spinning wildly in search of a reason. All right, you don't need to answer this question, Ms. Enyu's voice remained calm. I believe you have an answer in your heart. I just want you to know that all the gifts given by fate have been secretly priced. For a long time, Aaron's self-deprecating laughter responded to the goddess. This is not a gift, my lord. This is a curse. I have no choice. Curses and power always go hand in hand, the goddess answered him, just like light and darkness, it depends on how you use it. The power of the gods is powerful, and as more and more moon fire pours into the pond, Aaron's body gradually undergoes changes. His young skin began to wrinkle and age, with patches of yellow spots appearing until it completely necrotized. From youth to aging, from spirit to withering, from a head of brown aristocratic hair to a head full of graying withered hair, in just 1 hour, Aaron experienced changes from youth to adulthood, from adulthood to middle age, from middle age to old age. Finally, this body completely declined. But this is not over, the decaying body is nurturing new life, like a python molting its skin, with thick layers of skin bursting into cracks. Aaron stood up from the pond covered in moonlight, and couldn't help but stretch out his arms and roar. It was like a social animal who had been working overtime for a week finally getting the feeling of 3 days off, sleeping at home for a day and a night, and having a full meal. Aaron felt that the long-standing fatigue and weakness had finally disappeared. The newborn boy stood up from the pond, appearing even more handsome. With handsome eyes and eyebrows, his temperament is outstanding, and his sharp features are flawless. His sky-blue eyes are bright and deep, like gemstones that captivate the soul. The thin lips exude a charming luster, outlining an enticing lip line that exudes a seductive charm. Aaron's appearance did not change significantly, only slightly more relaxed than before, but it was this subtle change that made people realize that this young man's appearance went from mediocre to extraordinary, only requiring a slight change. When he turned around, even the pale silver moon lady froze for a moment. Extraordinary charm. Current attributes of the protagonist, 5e. Strength 14, physical fitness 14, agility 14, intelligence 14, perception 14, charm 22, end of this chapter. Chapter 6, Sexuality. Get out of here. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6, Sexuality. Get out of here. Shanghai Town, open-air altar, in a secret room. Aaron Salian opened his eyes, and the warm and pleasant moonlight around him gradually disappeared. The mural of the Silver Virgin on the wall gradually lost its luster. After the suicide victim fell into a coma, the lingering fatigue and weakness finally dissipated from him. All the dark wounds, including the scars left by his childhood fall on his leg, were restored to their original state with the gift of the Silver Virgin. Aaron returned to a 100% state, feeling a maternal warmth enveloping his entire body. A stream of heat surged from Aaron's heart, spreading throughout his face along with blood vessels. Red face and red ears. Aaron didn't know what language to use to describe this feeling. It was a mixture of shame, inferiority, and gratitude. He slapped his face hard, feeling that he wished he could find a hole to burrow into. As his body and soul returned to the mortal world, every step of his plan was realized. He survived and successfully sought help from the Silver Virgin Church. He had the Silver Star Lady perform the 9 rings miracle technique on him, and he saw the Silver Virgin won. He also received his grace and used his divine power to heal his injuries. Now, after being strengthened by divine power, he finally has a body and soul that is capable of supporting the power of the gods. He got what he wanted as he wished, and naturally, Aaron was prepared to pay enough. After coming out of the pool, he stood with his hands down, waiting for Silver Moon Lady Suluan's menu. Beyond his expectations, for the grace of creation, a large amount of divine power was consumed. The pale-faced Silver Moon Lady Suluan did not ask him anything, not even a word of discipline. He just smiled and said he could leave. Aaron, who was ready to sign the selling contract, was stunned. Aaron, who comes from an aristocratic background, is most aware of the price of the kingdom's divine spells. If a 7-ring regeneration spell is to be released by a master priest of the righteous God Church from the righteous, upright, and kind-hearted camp who only charges capital, it also requires at least 1,000 gold lion coins, which is a super-friendly price. Change to a neutral and orderly camp or a neutral and kind pastor, with a premium of at least 50%. Even worse, pastors from other camps not only often receive a premium of over 100%, but also often have additional conditions. However, pastors from these camps tend to be more talkative, such as those on the evil side who are too lazy to care about who you are, what you want to do, and what your goals are. As long as the money is enough, you can arrange magic. In order to save Aaron, the Church of Our Lady of Silver paid a huge price. Decades and hundreds of years of accumulation were depleted by him, and also to save Aaron, Su Luan spent a lot of divine power on it. The goddess's face was very pale and even couldn't hide it. How much will it cost? Aaron's scalp tingled after a moment of thought. In his past life, he was a typical Chinese with a pragmatic logic. He understood that the church also needed a large amount of wealth to sustain itself, and no one could live on the power of love. Only by losing can one gain something, and only by putting in effort can one gain something. He is ready and firmly believes that he, who has obtained the power of the 4 powerful gods, has the ability to repay this high price. However, the Silver Moon Lady, who had clearly consumed a lot of divine power, did not ask for anything. This strange way of handling left Aaron, a soul from another world, at a loss. He took the initiative to ask, "May I ask what I can do for you, my lord?" "I don't need you to do anything." Finally, Salian, just be yourself. "But I am so favored by you that I believe I have an obligation to repay you and your followers for my efforts," Aaron insisted. "What do you think I would hope to get from you, my child?" The goddess's pale and delicate face smiled lightly, "But I have already got it. The most wonderful treasure in the world is a healthy and complete you, which is your best gratitude to me. My child, you are too utilitarian. Do you think that everything in the world has a corresponding price? Love is priceless, my child, to you as well as to me." Aaron remained silent. In his past life, in this life, he has become accustomed to this kind of equivalent exchange, taking what he needs. He understood the meaning of the goddess. How many young children have grown up with great and selfless ideals, but in the end, they have become the ones they dislike the most? How many young and passionate paladins once began their careers with the slogan, "Eliminate evil," but in middle age, their eyes were filled with vicissitudes? If you really want to be grateful to me, don't take this matter to heart. Go save it and help those who truly need it. Now, Aaron has returned to the mortal world, to the secret chamber of the open-air altar. He felt that his performance was really bad. From the beginning, he was crazily talking about money, contributions, and the glorious history of his family. He was a drowning man, trying to grab this rope at any cost. He was afraid that the other party would refuse to keep making promises, and he always felt that his future was promising, and there was nothing that could not be traded. Chips, he can afford it, he is the owner of the power of the 4 gods. But what if the other party had no intention of taking anything from him from the beginning? His face was hot and spicy, and the nobility of the Silver Moon Lady, his own narrowness, the selflessness of the other party, and his selfishness all made him feel ashamed. He really didn't know how to face the Silver Star Lady who had released miracles for him from outside. He really didn't know how to face the goddess selflessly healing him on the mural. He couldn't help but think of an indescribable, extremely malicious idea in his mind. A twisted voice told him, "This is a favor you can't repay, so use your gun on her. Dear, since it can't be repaid, this will definitely bring you and her the best experience and highest pleasure." "Oh, I'm so excited, I'm so excited." He was surprised by the filth and cruelty deep within his soul, and his face was uncertain. In the end, he calmed down and slowly got up. "What's wrong with color? Get out of here." As his expression gradually returned to normal, the Viscount's whole body was shrouded in a peculiar stance, with a pair of sky-blue eyes that were as distant and bright as a distant sky, carrying a deadly attraction. Radiant in all directions. Extraordinary charm power. I am the dividing line of extraordinary charm. When Aaron came out of the Chamber of Secrets, the changes that appeared on him immediately caught the attention of the Silver Star Lady, the Pastor Miss, and the brute and violent muscle woman who were waiting outside after dealing with the matter at hand. For Ms. Silver Star, Aaron was the one she watched grow up with. She has a strong affection for him and regrets his parents' affairs, so she always treats Aaron with the gaze of elders caring for the younger generation. However, when Aaron appeared, she couldn't help but be attracted to him for the first time. How did he suddenly become so charming? Especially those sky-blue eyes, like the deep sky of a falling star sea, almost sinking in just one glance. The Silver Virgin is above, extraordinary charm. Equally shocking was the young pastor standing beside her, whose face mask concealed her expression but could not conceal her surprise. Hey, why did this kid suddenly become so charming? The barbarian Asha looked at Aaron's 1.83-meter-tall, slender figure, familiar yet unfamiliar appearance, and couldn't help but exclaim, did he get kissed by the demon queen before? Shut up. Asha. The young pastor's tone changed noticeably. Are you questioning our Lord's decision? I didn't. I just noticed that this kid didn't look very good before, but now he feels much better. The muscular woman slammed her sleeve hard and waved her fist, if only he could be a little stronger. Aaron heard the muscular woman's words and ignored her. He knelt down on one knee and said in a deep voice, "Thank you for your kindness, Miss Silver. As long as you can use my place in the future, please feel free to speak up." Ms. Silver Star nodded. She is currently very weak, and the damage caused by the miracle technique is enormous. She needs a long rest to gradually recover. The Church cannot rely on love to generate power. Aaron has a special identity, and perhaps one day he can really help. Aaron then knelt down again towards the statue of the Silver Virgin, without saying a word. Ms. Inua may not need his gratitude, but Aaron has made up his mind that he will definitely repay the goddess's kindness to him. A drop of water's kindness should be repaid by a gushing spring, let alone the goddess's reconstruction of her kindness towards him. Aaron, are you planning to go back to Suzor? Ms. Silver Star whispered, her voice tinged with a strong sense of fatigue. Yes, I must hurry back and report on the matter of the sorcerer Mepham, and also, I need to bring Hick's body back to Susar for burial. Aaron turned his gaze to the table, where there was a box containing Hick's remains retrieved by the paladins. Less than 30% of the body could be recovered, and the body was destroyed like this, not to mention the tricycle resurrection technique, even the 7 rings divine art rebirth technique cannot resurrect him. Maphium, right. Shirek, right. You wait, this account, sooner or later I will let you repay it with blood and blood. Aaron silently clenched his fist. That's just right, Eleanor is also going to Suzor. Why don't you both come together? It's better to have a companion on the journey. The pastor immediately turned her gaze to Lady Silver Star. Eleanor, come over here. I have something I want to tell you. The pastor followed the chief high priest in, and Aaron took this opportunity to tidy up his things. The lock armor on the body is generally intact, and the robe is already scarred. However, the purple dragon pattern on it is still relatively clear. The helmet and standard long sword have been lost, and we need to report the loss when we return. Inside the lock armor was a complete set of noble leather clothes and pants, as well as a travel package. The dry food and water bags inside the package were all thrown away, with only 25 gold lion coins, some ink bottles, goose feathers, pens, and white paper lying well in the package, and a roll of bound documents. I hereby confer the title of Viscount of the Kingdom of Aaron Salian Comer in the name of Obezer. Alice Searle Obersteer. Looking at this name, Aaron's mind conjured up a tall and majestic beauty with blonde hair and red pupils. This document is a proof of noble identity for the kingdom. As long as he holds it, Aaron can at least pass through this kingdom without obstruction, avoiding trouble in many places in the central mainland and the Sword Bay area. Put away the aristocratic certificate, Aaron shifted his gaze to the golden ring on his index finger. This is the heirloom of the Salian family. The red Conrad ring, which has now been passed down to me. This ring is a magical item whose effect is to instantly sacrifice a certain amount of blood and quickly convert it into magic. This magic can last for about a minute and disappear if not used. The red Conrad ring can only be used twice a day. The ring was almost useless treasure to the original Aaron, he was not a spellcaster. But now it's different. The power of Sai has been successfully unlocked under the power of Silver Moon Lady Suluan, and the power of chaos is now flowing in her own blood. Dear Ms. Asha, I am about to go on a long trip. May I ask if you can help me? Aaron sorted out his package and said to the female barbarian who was exploring on the side. What's going on? The female barbarian instinctively wanted to refuse. She had always looked down on aristocrats who liked to manipulate people but didn't like to do it herself, but for some reason, when she saw Aaron's sky-blue distant eyes, she couldn't say a word of refusal at once. This kid is also considered to have encountered great difficulties, lucky enough not to die, or touched. Would it not be good to refuse his request without even thinking about it? Here are 20 lion coins. I lost my weapon before and now I need a weapon, either a sword, hammer, or knife. If you are familiar with this place, can you help me get one? I will use it soon, Aaron earnestly requested. What's so difficult about this? You found the right person. Wait, I'll go get you a sword. The barbarian reached out and took the money, confidently walking away. Succeed in charm. Aaron smiled contentedly. A magic ring that enchants humanity. This is a very awkward spell. If the caster's charm is not enough, it is easy to be immune, and even if the charm effect is successful, it will only last for a short period of time. During the duration, the other party will treat you as a familiar friend, but if you make him do actions that cause significant loss to his interests or harm himself, the other party will immediately wake up. And the worst part is that when the seduction effect ends, the other party will realize that they are being seduced. Even the good people from the orderly and kind camp will leave a bad impression in their hearts, while those from the evil camp will either strike at you with a single blow, or they will already be thinking about how to retaliate against you. As the holder of the power of lust, Aaron can unleash his enchantment spell unlimited times without any cost, and most importantly, his enchantment spell will not be detected afterwards. And this is just the initial and earliest manifestation of the power of lust and sin. More power needs to be discovered and explored by himself. Aaron knew he had to seize time. The power of the Chaos Four Gods was both a gift and a curse. He temporarily suppressed the curse with the power of the goddess Suellen, but that didn't mean he could relax. The Chaos Four Gods may come knocking at any time, possibly 1,000 years later. It's also possible, it's tomorrow. Aaron doesn't know when they will appear, all he can do is to quickly become stronger. He is too weak now, and after 18 years of confusion, he only has the strength of a first-level apprentice. Many of the online protagonists he watched in his past life were famous and dynamic at the age of 12 or 13, and he was already promoted to legend at the age of 18. Similarly, this incident also confirmed a vague speculation in Aaron's mind. The power of the four gods cannot be controlled by mortals and must be suppressed by divine intervention, but it is only suppression ultimately belongs to others. If Aaron wants to truly turn the power of the Chaos Four Gods into his own, he has only one choice. Function. And it must be held as a chaos deity, sealed as a god. Updated, please follow us. This is just the initial power of Sai, and more power will gradually be unlocked later. Yes, a hairless thing, die. End of this chapter. Chapter 7, I wish I could have been born 20 years earlier. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7, I wish I could have been born 20 years earlier. In a country, the abilities of a creature are roughly summarized into 6 types. Strength, physique, agility, intelligence, perception, and charm. These 6 fundamental attributes directly determine what a creature can actually do. The first 4 attributes are easy to understand at first glance, but the latter 2 require a brief explanation. Perception is a general description of human mental power, including willpower, judgment, perception, and the legendary sixth sense. Highly perceptive organisms can notice all the details in a scene. The most typical example is when someone returns home to sleep without realizing that their home has been stolen, and when someone returns home, they immediately notice that their chair has moved 2 centimeters to the left and enter a state of alert. In the kingdom, where there are gods, beliefs, magic, and various supernatural elements, high perception can further extend to the perception of many hidden beings, making it easier to come into contact with higher-level powers and communicate with gods or outer planes. So professions like pastors, druids, and monks who serve gods or entrust their beliefs to certain laws require high perception. The Silver Star Lady held Eleanor and stood behind a stone wall. She grabbed the young pastor's hand wrapped in a white leather glove and glanced at Aaron sitting outside, tidying up weapons and equipment while talking to the savage woman Asha. "Did you see that?" "What do you see?" Eleanor didn't really like being touched by others' bodies, and Miss Half-Elf said in confusion, "Strange, Asha has always looked down on children from noble backgrounds." "It's enchantment," Ms. Silver Star said in a low voice, her mature and plump face showing an interested expression. "He used enchantment, maybe unconsciously." The young pastor furrowed her golden eyebrows. "He has really changed a lot. In my previous understanding, Aaron was just a mediocre guy. Although he had etiquette and grace, he didn't really experience combat and training at first glance. But now Aaron gives her the feeling of a military aristocrat who has experienced life and death on the battlefield. He has a strong determination and is very confident and mature. He is very organized in his actions, and also has some of the cunning of the aristocrats." Just like Aaron's plea for help, it seems quite organized to the young pastor. First, he showed his difficulties and sought help calmly, offered a price, turned to favor when things didn't work out, and then retreated in the name of leaving. After accepting the favor, he didn't hypocritically swear and make many conditions that he couldn't do at a glance like many nobles did. He was very clear about his current strength and resources, so he just casually said that if there was a need in the future, just come to him. This is the characteristic that an excellent aristocrat should possess. What's even more interesting is that Aaron is now full of charm. His sky-blue eyes seem like the clear sky is unfathomable, and when he looks at him for a moment, he feels uncontrollable and wants to see more, feeling his soul falling into the sky and losing himself in the thin sky. Thinking of this, the pastor's young lady's face was as pink as a jade, with a hint of crimson on it. Even though most of her face was covered by a mask, it was stunning enough. How did he suddenly become so charming? Is the grace of the Silver Virgin really so powerful? Wait. The clever young pastor immediately reacted and said, "Extraordinary charm. He's a sorcerer." "Has he become a sorcerer?" Ms. Silver Star nodded slowly and said, "That's a charm spell." Charm may be the most difficult to understand attribute among the 6. This word can be understood as beauty plus personal charm simply by its literal meaning. What is appearance? Once upon a time, there was a country bumpkin in Russia, with a burly figure and a good appearance. His eyes seemed to be burning with fire, and timid people wanted to run away when they saw him, but the women in Moscow showed off their coquettishness when they saw him. He talks about the Bible more passionately than a professional priest, and he is another kind of teacher, and women long for his guidance. La Rasputin, the queen's lover, is this country bumpkin. What is personality charm? A short and slightly bald chubby man faced thousands of soldiers who came to intercept him, spreading his arms. "Soldiers of the Fifth Army, I am the Emperor." Soldiers, if you want to kill your own emperor, shoot. But besides appearance and personal charm, the most important aspect of this attribute lies in its affinity, including but not limited to leadership, negotiation ability, persuasive and intimidating ability, as well as its attraction to world laws and natural elements. When a person has high charm, unless they are naturally biased or resentful, the vast majority of creatures find it difficult to develop a sense of disgust towards them. Highly charismatic individuals sometimes enter the dragon's nest to play around. The giant dragon not only does not attack them, but also gives them a little gift before leaving. Even more charismatic individuals have a high affinity for the laws of nature and even the laws of the universe. Extraordinary charm. The charm attributes displayed by Aaron have exceeded the limits of humanity. Ms. Silver Star became very cautious when asked about this question. Yes, there is a limit to the attributes of mortals, which is the law of the world's operation. To break through this limit, one must rely on external forces, such as the divine power of gods or certain entities on the outer plane. Without the help of external forces, ordinary people cannot rely on themselves to awaken extraordinary charm no matter what. Dragon Warlock. Eleanor became increasingly cautious. No, Dragon Warlock doesn't have extraordinary charm either. Silver Star Lady squinted her eyes. He can't be a godson either, he's someone I've watched grow up with. He is the one who has been touched, the one who has been bestowed with grace by our Lord. Eleanor, I have a task for you. Ms. Silver Star rubbed her eyebrows wearily, and now she really needs to rest. Listen to me. Aaron didn't wait too long. At this point, the enchanting effect had disappeared, but the female barbarian Asha did not realize that she had been enchanted by the 18-year-old boy in front of her. She just felt that this boy had really become a bit different after receiving the favor of Lady Silvermoon. After bringing Aaron's gold coins to him, a standard long sword and a small bag of travel tools, fire folding and water kettle, the female barbarian always wanted to say a few more words to him. However, the clumsy and usually carefree Asha couldn't find a topic at the moment, and her face turned red. Finally, she walked to a nearby corner and picked up two at least 200 pounds with both hands. The heavy iron pier began to train its body. Hey ha hey ha. For some reason, the female barbarian screamed loudly. She felt very energetic today, as if her strength had been infused into her body from behind, and she was more energetic when doing things. Aaron packed his things and glanced at the female barbarian with her back to him. He also looked at the two large iron pillars weighing at least 200 pounds in her hand, like toys, and couldn't help but sweat. In Aaron's eyes, those two big iron pillars gradually transformed into his own appearance. His armor and weapons and equipment didn't even weigh 200 pounds. He remembered that there had been a murder case in Suzor, where a female barbarian had an argument with her husband. Both sides were at fault, but the barbarian's intelligence was generally not high, and her husband gradually became speechless. So she grabbed her talkative husband by the neck and lifted him up, grabbing him to the rooftop to let go. The world suddenly quieted down, and she won the argument. This is a fantasy world. This is true. Feminism. As a second-level elite and talented individual, she can easily punch Aaron's brain with just a close approach. Unable to provoke, Aaron swallowed his saliva and shook his head repeatedly. Are you ready? A tall, cold and indifferent female voice called back Aaron's attention. The priestess, carrying a medium-sized backpack, stood in front of Aaron, her beautiful appearance still hidden under the mask with the silver emblem of the Virgin Mary. A golden ponytail hung down to her waist in the sunlight, and her short hair on both temples was refreshing and dry. Even under the cover of the priest's robe, her slender waistline still appeared in front of Aaron. The height of the pastor lady is not high, about 1.62 to 1.63 meters, which is not small compared to the 1.8 meter female barbarian next to her. However, her figure is extremely symmetrical, with a standard ballet figure, slender and beautiful. Inside the robe was a finely crafted pastor's breastplate with a white shirt lining, which could be described as tightly wrapping the young pastor's entire body without revealing a trace. At the same time, under her belt hung a very thick large book with the emblem of the Silver Virgin Mary on the book cover, and in the other hand, she held a church standard war hammer called the Hand of the Moon. Yes, that's right, it's a war hammer. After watching many Japanese fantasy and various erotic images in the past life, people often form a stereotype that priests are delicate and weak, easily pushed down, wearing pure white, even slightly astringent, revealing bikini robes, and usually responsible for hiding behind the flesh shield and casting healing magic. Actually, it's not like that at all. But it's not necessary to dress like a heavily armored warrior, just like a priestess. How most pastors dress depends on the deity they believe in and the direction of their field. For example, the pastor of the Fire Lady is really someone who wears a light and thin robe, a low-cut dress, and likes to show off their figure, while the pastors of the Three Gods of Justice are mostly white helmets and armor, and the pastor of the God of Thief is wearing a close-fitting leather cloak, just like a wanderer. Aaron noticed that the young pastor had changed into a brand new pair of deer leather boots, and the perfect calf curve made him take a second look. However, the robe and armor skirt were both very long, and the collar of the pastor's robe was carefully tied with a bow. "I'm also ready, are we going now?" Eleanor wanted to start her journey calmly, but when she saw Aaron's gaze turn, she quickly averted it and a hint of crimson flashed on her face. His gaze seemed to have a terrifying magic. "Let's go then." Aaron took the bag containing Hicks bones from Eleanor's hand and weighed it. "I can't wait to go back to Susar." As the two of them left the open-air altar, the young pastor realized that her feelings were not wrong. Whether it was beastly humans, civilians, clergy, or even guards, after seeing Aaron, they couldn't help but focus their gaze on him until he disappeared from sight. And as soon as the two of them left the altar, the savage woman Asha put down the iron pillar. "What's wrong, Asha? Keep practicing," a strong paladin laughed. "No more practice. I don't want to practice. I am not practicing dividing lines anymore. Chenhai town is located in the central part of the kingdom, adjacent to the double-legged flying dragon lake. It is the hometown of two noble families, Dragon Thorn and Thunder Sword. These two families have great influence in Chenhai town, and they almost monopolized the town's trade and handicraft industry. They must conduct strict inspections on all civilians entering and leaving Chenhai town. Especially the children of the Dragon Thorn family, dressed in luxurious attire, carefully searched every suspicious person at the city gate. At the same time, a express payment channel was opened at the city gate, where they could pass directly by paying 5 golden lion coins. This leads to a crowded city gate, where people mix together, with adventurers, merchants, citizens entering and leaving the city, farmers, and artisans huddled together. The stench of sweat, saliva, body odor mixed with the smell of fish and meat envelopes the city gate cave. In the argument between the two sides, a whole bucket of fish was overturned by the guards, who were searching for smuggled goods with long spears, while the other guards carefully searched each passenger's package and vehicle under the shouting of the Longthorn family's children. Chicken flies and dog jumps. "It's a bit troublesome, Miss Eleanor. You need to follow me closely," Aaron said casually. "Your Highness Salian, I don't need your protection. No one dares to make trouble for the servants of the Silver Virgin in Chenhai town." Eleanor frowned, and the stench on her face made her uncomfortable. Seeing Aaron's inappropriate behavior made her even more angry. What does he consider himself to be? A weak woman in need of protection. "You're protecting me, Ms. Eleanor," Aaron smiled and grabbed Eleanor's sleeve. He whispered, "I mean, if you get closer to me, you won't be smelled." "Why do we have to get closer to you so that we won't get smoked?" The young pastor didn't understand for a moment, but the fact was that when Aaron leaned against her, the stench in the city gate almost disappeared in an instant. She smelled the faint aroma of Aaron, a fruity blend of citrus and lemon, mixed with a hint of imperceptible rosemary fragrance. The young lady pastor suddenly felt relieved and her restlessness dissipated. Is this also a characteristic brought about by extraordinary charm? The man in front of me has an indescribable feeling, whether he is good or evil. But no matter what, I must fulfill the instructions of the Silver Star Lady. Miss Half-Elf gave herself a good reason. She was originally here to monitor and escort her, and the two of them were a little closer together, isn't there anything? She really hates the smell and dirt. Eleanor's gaze was burning, carefully examining the man's back. She had to spend a long time monitoring his condition in the future. I hope you don't disappoint the Silver Virgin, Aaron of Salian. Otherwise, the Silver Virgin will forgive you, and I will not forgive you either. I will use the hammer in my hand to impose just sanctions on you. Aaron felt the gaze behind him. Aaron's body surface emits a fragrance to dispel all odors, which is the unique power of lust. The happy prince has always disliked the smell of blood, brass, and lava all over his body, and the stench of dirt is even more so. This small power can make all the odors around him disappear, accompanied by a faint aroma. Sani always likes to use his attention to these useless places, and Aaron can't help roast. No wonder he's been hammered by the other three gods all day. But his current focus is not on this matter, but on the noble children of the Dragon Thorn family dressed in luxurious costumes at the city gate. In the past year or two, the Lonxi family has been in the limelight of the kingdom, almost reproducing the most glorious glory of the family. Because just 2 years ago, someone in the Dragon Thorn family successfully became a deity. Fonda Longthorn, one of the founders of the Harp Alliance and now the god of art and reptiles, was a legendary bard who was recommended by Lucky Lady and recognized by the divine god Ao for killing the corrupt god Moando in a turbulent year. The Dragon Thorn family has thus become one of the most influential families in the country. Yes, 2 years have passed since the turbulent year. The Holy Cataclysm has also passed for 2 years. All gods, except for a few who already wander on the main material plane, have returned to their own divine kingdom. I'm late. At the thought of this, Aaron felt heartbroken and couldn't breathe. The vast majority of online articles he has read depict the protagonist embarking on a journey before the turbulent year of the Holy Cataclysm. He then lays out everything, seizes every opportunity, and ultimately slays the gods who have fallen from the divine realm due to the Holy Cataclysm, either beheading or taking them away as dogs. But it's my turn, why did I just pass by? The young Viscount looked excited as he stared at the family emblem of the Dragon Thorn family, feeling indignant in his heart. I wish I could have been born 20 years earlier and ruled the world fairly with Asmodeus. Well, it seems a bit wrong. I am the son of chaos, and Asmodeus is the master of the 9 jails. He is law-abiding and evil, and is not of the same kind as myself. Then change it. I wish I could have been born 20 years earlier and ruled the world fairly with Daimagajan. The signature has been submitted. Please wait for Mina-san, end of this chapter. Chapter 8, Be Careful, Traveler. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8, Be Careful, Traveler. The descendants of the Dragon Thorn family almost all inherited all the bad habits of the deity Fonda Dragon Thorn. Extreme pride, arrogance, but also inherited the advantages of Fonda Dragon Thorn. Sympathy for the weak, hostility towards the strong, opposition to tyranny, and a desire for freedom, just like a desire for breath. They are not yet able to make things difficult for the low-power and aristocratic local people of the Kamal like Aaron. As for the priestess, it is even simpler. Vander Dragonthorn established his divine kingdom in the Moon Gate, while the Silver Virgin and Silver Moon Lady Surin were the masters of the Moon Gate. Therefore, strictly speaking, Vander Dragonthorn, who had only weak divine power, was closer to Surin's subordinate deity and was also a relatively low-ranking ally. The two quickly obtained approval. This is not a very dangerous journey because the two of them are walking on the main road of the kingdom, so they don't carry many equipment. Apart from the standard sturdy leather boots, thick cloaks, water bottles, a small amount of food, and 1 or 2 clean clothes to change, there is no more preparation. On the main road of the kingdom, there is a carefully designed gatehouse system by the nobles, ensuring that there are hotels available for rest and various services within each day's journey. Aaron and Eleanor don't have to worry too much about running out of supplies. After leaving Chenhai town for 3 hours, Aaron and Eleanor arrived at a small slope. The dense birch forest swayed in the wind, and the wildflowers on the roadside were in full bloom, filled with the breath of life. Aaron casually chopped off a branch from a tree, and his standard long sword swiftly cut off the excess branches. A sturdy cane was ready, and the Viscount smiled as he handed the mountain climbing cane to the young pastor, saying, "Miss Eleanor, I think you need this." "Thank you, but I don't need it." After 3 hours of trekking, a little sweat had already oozed from the young pastor's body and back. She shook her hand and refused Aaron's gift, saying, "You can keep it for yourself. I remember the pilgrims each holding a cane like this, didn't they?" Aaron didn't take it seriously when he saw the young pastor not wanting it. He grabbed the cane and casually played a few movements. "Also, aren't you hot like this?" Eleanor wrapped herself up tightly. He really felt that the pastor lady was feeling a bit uncomfortable. "I'm used to it, just a little bit of warmth, it's not summer." Eleanor shook her head, and the pastor hesitated for a moment before reminding her, "Don't relax too much. The mountain path of Comer is indeed much safer than the forest path of Comanso, but it doesn't mean you won't encounter battle. You know that you are the one touched by our Lord, the last Salian bloodline. If you die..." "I'm already dead." Aaron grabbed his cane and thrust it hard into the ground, splashing a patch of soil and grass seeds. "Do you also have this feeling? I'm completely different from the original me." The pastor stopped and looked at Aaron with interest. "Will life and death really bring such a big change to people?" "Yes," Aaron sighed and nodded before shaking his head. "But I suggest you don't try, it's not a good experience. I think maybe we can let all the nobles experience it, so that the world will definitely become a better place." The pastor took out a small pot from her luggage and said, "Wine, I made it myself. Do you want to give it a try?" "Oh." Miss Eleanor brewed it herself. "Then I must taste it." Aaron's every move is full of elegant demeanor, and compared to the past, he is completely different. "It's not easy to drink the fine wine you personally brewed. I heard that some nobles paid a lot of money to buy sea flower wine but couldn't." "That's just a strategy," said the pastor as she placed the glass bottle in Aaron's hand, with a hint of pride in her pleasant voice. "People always like to chase after rare items and vanity, and proper promotion can always have a good effect. Propaganda cannot change the truth in the end. Let me guess, the truth is that Miss Eleanor's wine must be delicious." Aaron shook the wine bottle twice, listening to the sound of the liquid inside and smiling, "May I leave Miss Eleanor's wine for tonight? There are too many incidents of drinking and causing trouble during the journey." Aaron flipped his fingers lightly and stuffed the bottle into his package. The Viscount took the lead and left the young lady with a graceful figure. "You don't need to test me like this, Miss Eleanor. I'm not saying it anymore, I'm not the same as before." Seeing her thoughts being seen through, a red glow flew over the pastor's face. She stomped her foot and quickly followed, "I didn't test you. I'm serious. If it weren't for my lord's favor, I would have suspected that you were possessed by something." "People always have to grow," Aaron asked as the pastor rushed up. "In your impression, what kind of person was I before?" "A mediocre person." "He is a person who only knows how to do standard things and speak standard words," Eleanor pondered, "always blushing in front of me, greeted by elders, but you never dare to say anything other than talking about the weather and the card game between taverns." Veins sprouted from Aaron's head. "How can I answer this question? I can't say that the reason why I blush and dare not speak recklessly is because I have a crush on you, right?" Previously, Aaron had a conservative personality, so he had a bit of a love sister plot, longing for those confident and powerful older sisters. Eleanor Dynefur, an elegant and noble half-elf, is shrouded in mystery whether it is her background or her parents. She never mentions her own background, which shrouds her affairs in a mist. What people know is that Miss Half-Elf appeared in Kamal about 10 years ago, and the appearance of her exquisitely carved and lovely little girl caused a huge sensation. People called her the Flower of the Sunken Sea, and Aaron can no longer remember whether she joined the Silver Virgin Church first or the Silver Virgin Church after causing a sensation. In short, Miss Eleanor has been firmly bound to Sue Ellen since she became famous. Of course, the most famous thing is that there was once a nobleman's son who fell in love with her and spent money to bribe gang members in order to come out with a hero to save the beauty. Who knew that Miss Half-Elf was holding the Hand of the Moon war hammer from her waist? At the age of 14 or 15, she had opened the heads of a group of gang members, splattering their brains all over the alley. Afterwards, the noble child reported her intentional murder in real name, but due to the efforts of the Silver Notre Dame Church and the investigation of the facts by the Purple Dragon Knights, no punishment was given to her as a minor. After this incident, no one dared to have her ideas. It was precisely after that incident that she began to wear a mask, unwilling to show off her true colors, which disappointed many people and gradually led to a decline in popularity. The aristocratic children surrounding her slowly dispersed, and Aaron remembered that there were comments in Susser's aristocratic circle mocking the pastor lady for having resources but not knowing how to use them. However, perhaps this is exactly what she wants. Beauty is sometimes a resource for people, and sometimes it is a worry for people. Do people who only speak standard language and do standard things? Aaron muttered a few words. Let's go, let's stay overnight at the Karen Hotel tonight. An adventurer returned to his hometown with a surging heart, eager to share his hard-earned wealth with his family. However, he always felt that this lacked some surprises. Marmora is above me, how can I express my joy? The adventurer knocked on his own door. I am a traveler, can I stay here for the night? His family readily agreed, just like before, piercing the traveler's chest with a knife in the middle of the night. Thank you for bestowing upon us this unexpected wealth. Oh my God, he is my brother. Oh my God, he is my son. Adventurers, remember not to reveal wealth and not overestimate human nature. Fables of the Nation in the Kingdom. Wilderness walking is the most common way of adventure. Adventurers usually walk to every corner of the kingdom, searching for the nests of dragons, the ruins of elves in the forest, the treasure trove of dwarves deep in the mountains, and even search for the high mountain fortresses or lost half-plain spaces of the former giant race. Wealthy adventurers often have mounts, among which nobles like to ride domesticated horses, a type of fully adapted high-quality horse specially trained for carrying people and goods, and slightly less so, riding horses, strong, endurance, and able to walk mountains. Another type is hybrid agricultural horses, which are capricious, unreliable, and have poor endurance when ridden by servants. In addition, there is a type of pony specifically designed for women to ride on, called pony. As far as Aaron knows, Susser is very popular for aristocratic women to sit on the side of this pony in urban activities. However, the load-bearing capacity of this small pony is limited to the petite and expensive noblewoman. Aaron secretly glanced at the young pastor, who was fully armed, with a long robe hanging from the ground in complete armor, and a finely crafted sacred book and a large warhammer hanging from his waist. Well, this is definitely something pony can't carry. Aaron thought his gaze was very hidden, but in fact, his perceptual attributes were very strong. How could the pastor not notice? She sensed Aaron looking at her almost at the same time. Most likely, this man is not thinking well. The woman's intuition tells her. Watch carefully again, I'll knock on you. Fortunately, Aaron just glanced and then moved his gaze away. In addition to riding, horse-drawn carriages, ox carts, and donkey carts are also important components of wilderness travel. However, unlike modern people's imagined high-end floats, most two-wheeled and four-wheeled bicycles in the country are not suitable for outdoor travel, for no other reason. The roads are really terrible. On rugged mountain roads, passengers are often bumped or even injured. Generally speaking, horseback riding is a faster way, and riding a bike is definitely not enough to catch up. It is very rare for a master rider to be able to ride a donkey cart and leave a large group of elite cavalry behind. The magic carriage of the wizards is really comfortable, like a mobile hotel, but this is a different category. As the two of them got further and further away from Qinghai town, the road began to become narrower and narrower. The road, which used to be about 10 meters wide, gradually shrank to only 4 or 5 meters wide. The roadside also evolved from vast farmland and dense villages to dense forests, invisible sheep intestines and small paths, and occasionally dilapidated road signs could be seen. If you're not in such a hurry to return to Suzhou, we can wait for the Dragonthorn family's large convoy to give you a ride. The young pastor looked around carefully, her hand always close to the handle of the Hand of the Moon hammer, indicating that she had a very rich adventure experience. The caravan of the Dragonthorn family. Oh, please, I don't want to get along with those guys with eyes above the top. Aaron also looked around vigilantly, while distracting himself from answering the young pastor's words, the family with gods at home. Damn. I'm late. Late. What's late? No, it's nothing. Aaron quickly shook his head, and every time he thought of this question, his heart still felt unbearable. I'm late. Don't think so. The nameless bard, also known as Vandy Dragonthorn, has a close and cooperative relationship with our Lord. You are a touched person, and the Dragonthorn family, no matter how proud they are, will not do anything to you, the pastor explained patiently. You said it well, so why did you cover your face? Aaron said without hesitation. You're a person. The young pastor was stopped by Aaron's words, and she didn't get angry or admit her mistake. Damn it, I'm really going to knock on you. The young pastor's cherry-full lips were tightly clenched under her teeth. Silver Virgin, please understand your humble servant. This kid is really despicable. If he weren't your toucher, I would have given him some trouble to try. The two of them turned around an intersection, and the forest ahead became even more lush, with spring sunshine shining and the earth filled with vitality everywhere. The young pastor's face suddenly changed, and she immediately reached out and grabbed the hammer from her waist. The mountain breeze is fishy. There are goblins around. Your Highness Salian, prepare for battle. Okay. Aaron's perception was not as high as Eleanor's. His reaction was slightly slower, but he relied on muscle memory, his sword unsheathed, and his pace adjusted quickly. Following the footsteps of the young pastor, the two of them walked through the dense shade and saw a collapsed carriage. The horse had disappeared, and one wheel of the carriage was unloaded on the ground, causing the carriage to collapse over. Scattered arrows were planted on the surrounding land, and some blood stains could be vaguely seen in the meadows and shrubs. It's a goblin. Aaron reached out and wiped the surface of the grass, putting his blood under his nose to smell it, and then judged, did the goblin attack this convoy? Like, but not really. The young pastor crouched down and looked at the footprints on the ground. Look, there are only a few goblin footprints here. Only a few heads. Aaron's expression immediately became serious. Goblins, jackals, and dog-headed humans are known as the three great friends of beginners in the country, and are also enemies of beginners. These three races all have three common characteristics. Being able to survive, easy to feed, and skilled in guerrilla tactics. This is a group of creatures that cannot be completely killed, with a short growth cycle and surprisingly tenacious vitality. They can survive by eating meat and grass roots. As long as a few of them survive, they can restore the size of a tribe the next year. If they are all killed, tribes from other places will migrate over. There is no limit to descendants. However, goblins are different from werewolves or dog-headed humans. Goblins are extremely timid creatures, and if they are the only ones, they will not actively attack humans without 5 or 10 times the number. Aaron and Eleanor only saw a few footprints of goblins. This situation is not right. This indicates that this goblin has a leader, and it can never be a goblin. The most likely one is a bear goblin or a big goblin in the class of goblins. Aaron turned his gaze to the carriage. Although the canvas of the caravan was tattered, through the light and shadow, it seemed that there was something inside. He stretched out his sword and carefully lifted the car curtain. At the same time as his lifting of the car curtain, there was a shout from deep in the forest. "Be careful, traveler. Updated, please pay attention to this chapter." End of this chapter. Chapter 9, Ferrara's Adventure Team. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9, Ferrara's Adventure Team. Upon hearing this scream, there was a huge difference in reaction between Aaron and Eleanor. The muscle memory that has been trained for many years made Aaron make a move in an instant. Stand at attention, separate your feet, with your left foot in front and your right foot behind. Lift the long sword facing upwards, concentrate your wrist, hold the handle with your right hand, and clasp your thumb on the handguard to ensure that you can quickly respond to the enemy at any time. However, Aaron's left hand did not tightly grasp the lower part of the long sword like the standard Purple Dragon Knight's tactics, but instead pressed against the contact point between his right wrist and the hilt, with his palm slightly open. This is not a normal standard knight swordsmanship move. The correct move for a knight's sword technique is to hold the left hand on the back half of this long sword while using the power of both arms to control the sword body. Generally speaking, the body of a single-handed long sword is divided into two ends. The first half is the weak side, mainly responsible for piercing and swinging, while the second half is the strong side. The use of this part is not different from that of a two-handed blunt tool, long stick and hammer type, and many knights even do not cut the edge on the strong side. It's really strange for Aaron's left hand to do this. The young pastor, who was a few steps away from Aaron, had a faster reaction speed than Aaron. In the moment she heard the roar, she raised the hammer with one hand and swung it with the other. The thick and sacred book on her waist had been opened, and the pattern of the silver moon on the page lit up with the young pastor's movements. A divine spell was ready. Twilight flame. The moonlight sliced through the air and directly hit the carriage, emitting a dazzling light. At the same time, the twilight also enveloped Aaron, forming a twilight protective ring on the surface of his body. Aaron's eyes widened. Eleanor Dynfer is a very rare pastor in the twilight realm. He just didn't have time to think so much anymore. As the curtain was lifted, a bear goblin about 2 meters tall came rushing towards him. A familiar guy came to Aaron's mind. This bear goblin looks a bit like a basketball star he has seen in his past life. It's the guy with the nickname Thick Eyebrow Brother. Bear goblins, goblin-like creatures, are chaotic and evil factions. Unlike his cousin, the Great Goblin, bear goblins are mindless creatures that only know how to be hunted and plundered by instinct. Unlike his cousin goblins, bear goblins are tall and powerful, like to use a wolf-toothed stick hammer, ready to give enemies a hard blow at any time. Although bear goblins are also called goblins, they are almost two different creatures from goblins. They have a pair of pointed ears, huge fangs that can bite off human legs in one bite, swollen muscles and strong hair on their bodies. The yellow eyes under their thick eyebrows are always full of war and hunger, searching for fresh and delicious food and enough enemies to be their opponents. This is still not the deadliest place for the bear goblins. The most terrifying aspect of a bear goblin is that it does not prioritize order like its fellow goblins, but rather values military systems and discipline. It likes to use tactics to defeat opponents in a dignified manner. Despite its low intelligence, bear goblins are very cunning, and they particularly enjoy ambushes and raids. A bear goblin surprise attack can smash an unprepared and fully armed knight into the soil, and then use its hammer to open this can and enjoy the rare delicacy. Many novice adventurers have lost their lives because of this. The flashy tricks, well-trained swordsmanship, and various small skills in aristocratic duels are all unbeatable to the hammer of the bear goblin. This bear was shrewd and had been hungry for a long time. It rushed out of the car curtain and came towards Aaron with a wolf-tooth stick, carrying strong winds and piercing friction in the air. What a powerful force! Aaron's pupils tightened, and he immediately slid backwards, narrowly avoiding the blow. The purple magic has also taken shape in Aaron's palm. The whip of sin. From Aaron's left hand, 3 long whips covered in thorns were swung out and swept across the face of the bear goblin. In almost an instant, the bear goblin disfigured, and large streams of blood sprayed out of its face, splashing Aaron all over. The bear goblin is a creature that is not very afraid of pain, but for some reason, the visible pain on its face after being hit by this whip surprised Eleanor and the peepers in the forest who arrived. At this moment, the best opportunity to attack Aaron was lost, and Aaron retreated again and successfully flashed out of the attack range of the bear goblin. Even the long sword in his hand still peeled off a piece of flesh from its face. The whip dissipated, the casting of the left hand continued, and a pink flame had already gathered in his palm. Fierce and fantastic powder flame. A strange pink flame shot out in a twisted trajectory in the air and hit the body of the bear goblin head-on, causing the giant beast to roll incessantly on the grass in pain. No one knows what this pink flame is, but everyone can see that it is filled with a demonic aura. The bear goblins seem to have experienced immense pain even though they have only touched it without being burned. Take a closer look. Where is the flame? The flames turned into creatures like elves, crawling and biting on the body of the bear goblin, until the bear goblin knocked it down and stomped it down. At this moment, there was finally movement in the forest. Several figures wearing cloaks stepped out from behind the big tree, accompanied by the sound of roaring arrows. However, their attack came too late. The Silver Virgin is above. The attack of the young pastor had spread from far to near. She held a book in one hand, and on the open page, the Silver Virgin's emblem burned with the flames of twilight. The other hand held a war hammer high, and the surface of the hammer was already filled with moonlight. With a 2-step approach and a leaping leap, the pastor's body leaped 3 meters high, and the hammer fell, hitting the bear goblin's skull directly. Pop, yellow, white, and red liquids flew up, and the sound of metal collisions echoed in the forest. The bear goblin, who was over 2 meters tall, let out a pitiful cry, and its body trembled a few times. After rolling and splashing a patch of dust on the ground, it stopped moving. Well done, Miss Eleanor. Aaron looked at the bear goblin whose entire skull had been smashed into a big hole and couldn't help but swallow his saliva. He got up from the ground and gently patted off the soil and grass seeds on his body. He gave the pastor a thumbs up and smiled. Do you always use hammering to subdue people like this? The young pastor patted her long robe, which had been splashed with various juices, with a hint of disgust. Her face did not show any joy, but instead she stared at Aaron with a burning gaze. What is that? What is what? Aaron pretended to be silly. What is that purple whip? Aaron, I don't remember you believed in tormenting ladies. Eleanor felt a sense of oppression. It's a gift from the Silver Virgin. Aaron immediately said. The pastor's voice was muffled. How should she continue to say this? What about the pink flame? The sacred flame of the Silver Virgin can only be silver, blue, and white. She didn't give up yet. It's the grace of the Silver Virgin. Aaron was extremely serious. You. The young pastor's face turned white with anger, and her little hand wrapped in an iron glove clenched the hand of Warhammer Moon. Is that the power of the Silver Virgin? It's bullshit. Even fools can see that it's not the power of the Silver Virgin. The power of the Silver Virgin has always been gentle and true. How could it be as demonic as the one released by Aaron? But Aaron is a touched person who has visited the kingdom of Suruan and met the deity himself. A true devout believer will not question the decision of the deity. If Aaron says yes, then until Suluan denies it personally, the priestess can only assume that he is. This is the logic of the clergy. even if she knew that Aaron's power source was not right, with Eleanor's piety, she would not continue to ask. Having already thought of it, Aaron calmly curled his lips as he watched the young pastor's uncomfortable and conflicted state. That's not just your God, it's also my God. Friends in the forest, can you come out now? Aaron gestured to the pastor to discuss our issue later, and the young Viscount spoke to the figures flashing in the forest. Hello, esteemed nobleman, I'm sorry to have surprised you. We are Ferrara's adventure group, and I'm Ferrara. This is my deputy, Montero. A tall and slender mercenary leader, dressed in tattered leather armor and with a stubble on his face, walked out of the forest with several mercenaries dressed in equally shabby clothes. His black eyes were filled with caution. First, he looked at Aaron, who wore a tattered robe but could no doubt see the purple dragon pattern on his body. He thought to himself as a handsome young man, and then moved his gaze to the pastor, who embroidered the silver emblem of the Virgin Mary on his face. On my sister. His gaze flickered a few times, and he introduced a shorter, equally dirty armored man behind him to the two. This is Montero, my partner. Hello, Mr. Ferrara and Mr. Montero, were you attacked in the forest? Aaron noticed that both the long-haired Ferrara and the short-haired Montero had withered hair like weeds. Goblins. Ah, that's right. The tall and thin mercenary leader nodded repeatedly, pointing to the bite mark left on his leather armor. Look, nobleman, this is what the goblins have bitten. The Great Tampas is up there, nobleman. We are a group of merchants from Zambia, and our goods are sausages and beer. Unfortunately, we encountered a group of bear goblins leading a battle group. As you can see, we were attacked. Encountered an attack. Aaron looked at the group of people. At least a dozen of them, 7 or 8 swords, and 3 crossbows in their hands. Isn't that right? Your Highness, fortunately you're here, otherwise we wouldn't know how to deal with this bear goblin. Ferrara approached enthusiastically and took out an ointment from his pocket. Your Highness, are you injured? I have ointment here. Aaron Salian, my name is Aaron Salian, I am Viscount Salian, and she is Eleanor, the priest of the Silver Virgin. Aaron waved his hand and refused Ferrara's ointment. He lightly snapped his fingers, and pink flames sprayed out from his fingertips. As you can see, I am a sorcerer. Seeing pink flames sprouting from Aaron's fingertips, most of the mercenaries around them looked surprised, and the formation that was originally surrounded in a semi-circular shape quietly retreated. We rarely see sorcerers in Calmer. I thought you were a war mage. Ferrara and Montero exchanged a glance. It's not common to encounter nobles traveling alone in the wilderness. I am traveling under the command of Regent Alice Sell, and now my mission has been completed. The Regent should be waiting for me to report back in Susar. Aaron smiled brightly at Ferrara and Montero. I am very lucky to meet you all in the wilderness, and I believe this is Tamara's blessing. With the Viscount's brilliant smile on his face, Ferrara and Montero both felt as if a bright sunlight had penetrated their hearts, dispelling the gloom of the past. Especially the mercenary leader, who almost couldn't help but secretly made a gesture to the mercenaries from behind. This nobleman is very kind, don't worry. Okay, that's right. We're going back to Susar now. It's a bit dangerous if there are only 2 people on the way, and you're obviously in trouble. Why don't we be together? Aaron said with a bright smile, it's good for both of us. Would you be willing to accompany us? Ferrara exclaimed in surprise, and the tall and thin mercenary leader clenched his fist excitedly. You are a spellcaster, and of course we would like to accompany you. Coincidentally, we also plan to go to Susar. To be honest, Viscount, we are not actually merchants, we are mercenaries. We want to go to Susar to see if there are any jobs to take on. I heard that Your Highness the Regent has been recruiting adventurers recently, so we can consider building a relationship. No, you are a merchant, just like a fake merchant. Aaron then smiled. He held out a forefinger and shook it in front of Ferrara. Everything should be done according to the rules, but I can promise that I will handle other things. The expression of the mercenary leader went from astonishment to shock, then to sighs, and finally nodded with relief. This is nature, Viscount. Thank you so much. If everything goes smoothly as you said, we are willing to give 20% of the goods as a gift. So, it's a deal. It's a deal. The journey afterwards became much simpler. Ferrara and his group had a total of 18 people, of which 16 were warriors, 1 barbarian, 1 wanderer, and not even a ranger. The desire of the spellcasters for such a team structure is obvious. Ferrara cheered the wanderers, along with the barbarians and 3 warriors, to explore the way ahead, loaded the only remaining mule carts, and asked Aaron and Eleanor to sit on them. Aaron refused, and the members of the mercenary group didn't take it seriously. They loaded the remaining sausages and 2 barrels of barley wine onto the mule cart and began their journey. The mountainous areas of Comer are very dangerous, with many goblin and dog-headed tribes roaming the forest, and even more so, some ancient monsters and mysterious sects operating in the dark. For example, in recent days, it is said that Santolin will gather a large army of orcs in the north, and the dragon witch cult is active in the king's forest. The wilderness of a country is always full of danger, but also full of opportunities. However, compared to other parts of the country, Comer appears very safe. The mountain and forest roads here are not only difficult to walk, but there are also many patrolling troops. Every few hours of travel, there are large roadside carriage hotels, and travelers can easily find shelter. There were no further incidents along the way, and the armed forces of Ferrara and his team were not weak. Occasionally, a few jackals were easily eliminated by the soldiers, and they were even unwilling to use arrows. Also, arrows are not a cheap thing. What left a deep impression on Aaron was that he had watched a movie called Brave Heart in his past life, in which King Edward had a battle that left a deep impression on him. The 2 armies are facing each other, with the elite English king's knights facing the Scottish Highlands' stupid goat. The deputy general asked the king if he wanted the longbowman to stand in front and shoot at the enemy. King Edward decisively refused. Arrows are precious, don't waste them, let the Irish go first. This leads to the inequality. The life of the Irish is less than the arrows of the longbowers. Eleanor noticed this scene, and the young pastor quietly approached Aaron, whispering in his ear, "This group of people doesn't quite resemble merchants." "No, they are merchants," Aaron chuckled mysteriously and whispered in his ear, "I'll tell you the specific reason when I get to the hotel. It's not suitable here." "I know." Eleanor was squeezed by Aaron, and a hint of crimson flew over her face under the mask. This man always exudes a pleasant aroma, mixed with the aromas of citrus, lemon, and rosemary, which makes her want to smell more and more. At least in the future, monitoring him won't have to endure the bad smell. The pastor lady reached out and pushed Aaron away to show that she knew. She still carefully watched Ferrara and his group of merchants. She still maintains doubts about them, and if it weren't for Aaron's strong opposition, she would hardly have agreed to go with them. However, Aaron always has a reason. It's the will of the Silver Virgin. I will expose you sooner or later. The young pastor was so angry that she gritted her silver teeth. Aaron quietly observed the state of the young pastor and thought to himself that playing the Suluan card would be really effective. However, we still need to find a way to deal with her, otherwise having her staring at us will make it inconvenient for us to do many things in the future. So, how can we turn the pastor into our own person? Let's first communicate in simple and profound terms. Aaron made up his mind and didn't pay any attention to the priestess anymore. Instead, he asked Ferrara and others to leave behind 2 jackals, and his mouth spat out a string of language that was not from the mortal world. He doesn't need to understand, he just needs to activate and let the power flowing in his blood exert itself. 3 colorful darts formed by a magical field were shot from Aaron's palm, instantly detonating the heads of 2 jackals. Yes, Aaron's magic color is always strange, and there is a big difference in color from normal magic missiles. Viscount. Amazing, the mercenary leader immediately cheered. Ferrara naturally thought that this noble sorcerer was going to show them his magical abilities, but when he moved his gaze to the face of the Viscount, he found that his face was terrifyingly black. The mercenary leader finally put aside his contempt in his heart. Ferrara has met many nobles, including those from the Moon Sea, Zambia, Khmer Valley, A&M, and Deepwater City. Most of the outstanding nobles share a common characteristic, which is that their emotions are constantly changing, unpredictable, and uncontrollable. Be careful when dealing with such nobles. Moreover, he is still an unknown sorcerer. What's wrong, sir? The mercenary leader asked cautiously. Aaron's face had already turned cloudy and sunny, and a bright smile appeared again. It's okay, let's keep moving forward. Hurry up and arrive at the Karen Hotel before dark. I can't wait to taste the stewed lamb and butter cheese there. Okay, sir. Updated. Updated early today, full of sincerity. End of this chapter. Chapter 10, Heim Guard, Second Watch. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10, Heim Guard, Second Watch. The Karen Hotel stands alone in the wilderness of Khmer. It is a magnificent building with 5 floors, like a castle. In addition to the main castle, the Karen Hotel also has a 3-meter-high city wall, 2 auxiliary halls, a small blacksmith shop, a stable, a livestock pen, and a large reservoir. This hotel is clearly designed to withstand prolonged siege battles. Most wilderness hotels in the country come with certain fortress functions. Aaron recognized the owner of the Karen Inn, a half-elf named Tamachaya, who was almost 70 years old this year. For the half-elf, he was in his prime. He had a long horse face, straight facial features, and always liked to stand behind the bar listening to the stories of travelers. Tamachaya's camp is a chaotic and kind camp. This guy often goes his own way, and running a hotel brings him rich profits, making him very wealthy. He also likes to lend here, but rarely to the fickle adventurers from other places. Tamachaya hates credit, and almost no one can credit in his hotel. However, this semi-elf shop owner is also kind and generous. If the adventurer really runs out of money and says at the bar, they can get a full glass of barley wine, 2 pieces of hard black bread, and a piece of bacon. Food is free, and adventurers only need to share nearby experiences with their boss. In Khmer, many large chariot hotels in the wilderness are operated by semi-elves or elves for a reason. The specific content is too long, and there is a chance to say more. To summarize, the region where the Khmer kingdom was originally part of the diverse empire of elves. Later, with the rise of humanity, elves chose to withdraw from this area, leaving the land here for human reproduction, cultivation, and teaching humans magic and skills. Just like the American Empire owes the Native Americans, the Khmers also owe the elves to a greater or lesser extent, and even the most extreme and fanatical great Khmerists cannot deny the contribution of the elves to the kingdom. There are many guards in the hotel, totaling 20.30 people. In addition, there are several guards of the guardian god Heim standing guard here. The emblem of the guardian god Heim is engraved on both sides of the iron gate. The inscription of this holy emblem at the entrance of the hotel signifies that all hate disputes must be resolved outside the iron gate of the hotel. If one still needs to use weapons and magic inside the door, then no wonder the guards of the guardian god Heim are ruthless. They have obtained the legal qualification to kill the troublemaker. The wanderers and savages who had set out ahead had arrived at the entrance of the Karen Hotel under the light of dusk. The distant stone buildings were gilded in the sunset, and the rising smoke formed a beautiful medieval painting. The iron gate under the 3-meter-high city gate of the hotel was getting closer and closer. Ferrara waved his hand to signal the mercenaries to temporarily stop. He personally came to Aaron and said, "Your Excellency, we are here. Go in when you arrive. What are you waiting for me to do?" Aaron smiled rather than smiled. Oh, my lord, you're joking. We're not local to Comer and we're not familiar with this place. We don't know what the rules are. Please instruct us, my lord, and we'll follow suit. Ferrara humbly bent down and said. Well, in that case, let me do it. Aaron nodded slowly, tidying up his robe and collar amidst the slightly contemptuous gaze of the vicar. Sir Shiran strode towards the several Heim guards at the iron gate. There is a notice board standing outside the gate of the hotel wall. In light of the recent situation, the regent of the Kingdom of Kamal has issued an edict by the second Queen Alice Sel Oberzier. All individuals entering Comer must register with the officials stationed at the border. Secondly, foreign currency can only be used in specific locations. Please exchange your currency for the Comer's Golden Lion as soon as possible. Adventurers must obtain a permit before taking any action in group form. 4. All weapons must be kept in peaceful custody. The only individuals with immunity are members of the licensed adventure group and the mercenary group who can provide proof of employment. 5. It is prohibited to harm cats. 6. Bow down to the royal family and local nobles. 7. The Purple Dragon Knight has the right to search you upon request. Hunting on private territory is prohibited. Stop. The Heim guards have been staring at this group of unwelcome guests for a long time. They have all placed their hands on their swords, guarding Ferrara and the others, but they are struggling because the mercenaries did not step into their defense range, so they can only stand. After seeing Aaron approaching, they immediately made a stop gesture and said, "Please show me your identification and permission certificate." Aaron nodded and took out his aristocratic identification document from his arms. It turns out to be Viscount Salian, welcome. Guard Heim took the document and glanced at it before immediately bowing. Your duty is here, please forgive me. Ferrara quickly called for the mercenaries to pass through. Wait. The guard stopped the Ferrara's small gesture and said, Viscount, are these mercenaries hired by you? Yes, they are the guards I hired, Aaron nodded calmly. Do you have a permit or employment certificate? The Heim guard persisted, and the bearded armored soldier leaned on a spear in one hand and held the hilt at his waist in the other. This is the rule. Do you need proof of employment? Sorry, Viscount. We have no intention of making things difficult for you, but rules are rules, and everyone must abide by them. If you want an employment certificate, can I write one for you now? Aaron took out a pen and ink from the package and said with a smile on his face, I remember only the Purple Dragon Knight has this power. Now we enter the knowledge-blind spot of the Heim guards. As guards, the hotel guards of these faith guardians have the right to request visitors to provide identification and permits for the activities of foreign adventurers. As a local aristocrat in the Kamal region, Aaron only needs to provide identification and has the authority to issue permits, or in other words, he is a humanoid movable permit. As guards, the Heim followers have no right to demand anything from Aaron, especially to require him to write a special permit for it. They do not have this power, which only the Purple Dragon Knights have. This kind of contradictory situation often occurs among the Heim guards. Look at me, look at you, no one dares to make a decision to release someone. Please wait a moment, we will go in and explain the situation to the hotel owner, asking him to make a fair decision. The Heim guards entered, and the young pastor slowly walked up to Aaron, speaking contemptuously, they always do this. They, the Heim guards. The guards of the God of Guardians are just like the God of Guardians, with only granite in their heads. They only follow death orders, whether they are to protect the ruins of urban hotels from the threat of wild creatures, or to suppress the poor elderly, weak, women and children, and drive out a few kind beastly people from settlements. They always only know how to execute, without asking why. They are like emotionless puppets, willing to act as puppets. Eleanor clearly had a very bad impression of the guardian god. They don't even deserve to be called alive. If it weren't for the foolish decision of the guardian god in the turbulent year, the magic lady wouldn't have fallen because of it. The guardian god would have been at least 50% responsible for the disasters that destroyed countless families. Eleanor continued, I simply can't imagine that the followers of these guardian gods could still stand here with dignity, shamelessly treating everything as if nothing had happened, which is disgusting. Aaron remained silent upon hearing the words, and he still knew about it. The former guardian god Heim had a considerable influence in the vast majority of the country. As a guardian of the origin and a forever vigilant guard, the guardian god Heim always followed the orders of the divine god Ao to guard and monitor the entire country. He was extremely disciplined, and when he accepted a task, he would completely and thoroughly carry it out, leaving almost no mercy, unless the target is a child. Heim is very fond of children, so only when facing underage children, the guardian god will consider whether to be lenient. Heim's church was once considered the shield of civilization, especially famous for producing excellent guards. People trusted Heim's guards and regarded them as the most reliable guardians. Most of the kind-hearted deities had good relationships with Heim. Until the Holy Cataclysm. In the Holy Cataclysm, the gods were knocked down and forced to walk in the form of saints in the mortal world. However, Heim received orders from the Ao to prevent all the gods from returning to his divine kingdom, and the guardian god activated the city management authority to guard the highest ladder. This ultimately led to the fall of the second generation of the goddess of magic, infuriating the kind-hearted deities who turned a blind eye to countless disasters in the kingdom and revealed her true identity before mortals. Obeying orders, adhering to her duties, and having nothing to do with good or evil. His soul is colder than a stone. Therefore, after the end of the Holy Cataclysm, both mortals and gods felt disgusted by the performance of the guardian god. No matter how the Heim Church tried to remedy and restore its vitality, it is an undeniable fact that Heim's influence has significantly declined in the country. Aaron thought to himself that it was hard to say that Sham was wrong about this matter. He had only faithfully fulfilled his orders, and it was clearly the second generation of magic goddesses who wanted to take shortcuts and loopholes that led to his downfall. However, the original intention of the magic goddess was to end this disaster as soon as possible and to try to tell Ao the truth about the occurrence of this catastrophe. She was running for the safety of mortals. In comparison, Heim's indifference appeared very bad, very bad. Eleanor is a devout believer of the Silver Virgin Mary, and the Silver Virgin Mary Surin is a steadfast ally with the magic goddess. It is difficult for the priestess not to harbor a grudge against the guardian goddess. Miss Eleanor, I don't think what you're saying is unreasonable, but at least you can stand here and criticize the Heim guards recklessly. They can't do anything to you yet, can I be right? Aaron sighed lightly and said, can you do it in a different place? The young pastor was taken aback. Your Highness, Viscount Salian. Is that your Highness, Viscount Salian? A middle-aged half-elf, escorted by several guards, took a small step and ran to Aaron's face. He excitedly grabbed Aaron's hands and said, come, let Uncle hold your hands well. In just a few years, you've grown so big. This is obviously Tamachiaoya, and Aaron was at a loss due to the enthusiasm of the semi-elf innkeeper. Oh my, your father and I are old friends now, and I feel very sad about their affairs. But let's not talk about the past anymore. Come on, let me introduce you to everyone. The half-elf innkeeper directly grabbed Aaron's hand, while a human woman next to him, who was not sure if she was his second or third wife, grabbed Aaron's other hand and put him directly into the inn. The last Salian. Amidst the dim glow of the sunset, Aaron was lifted into the hotel by a group of people in full view. Please come in, everyone. Since the hotel owners have all behaved like this, the Heim guards have no reason to stop them. He is always so popular everywhere, and the young pastor looked at Aaron's back as he was crowded into the hotel gate, feeling a hint of envy in her heart. She once had a popular pet, the center of attention in the crowd, and the half-elf miss enjoyed it very much. It wasn't until one day when she was attacked that she realized everyone was around her not because of how excellent she was, but because of her beautiful appearance. She was very disappointed with this, and from that day on, she put on a mask. Sure enough, after she put on the mask, the crowd that had originally surrounded her left one after another, which made her feel even more disappointed. Eleanor's biggest dislike was that others saw her as a beauty rather than an excellent pastor. Ferrara's mercenary group quickly loaded their goods into the city wall, and Eleanor saw the wanderer sweating profusely. She couldn't help but ask, "Have you been waiting here for a long time?" "It wasn't long, my lady. We just stayed here for a while and felt like you were there." The short wanderer smirked and made a funny face, jokingly saying, "I could smell it from a long distance, lady. The smell from your body, hee, is quite pungent." The fierce wind, like a steel knife, swept through the dim night sky, and the pressure emanating from the young pastor pressed the small wanderer down on the ground. "Female, madam." The small wanderer was frightened and saw the young pastor's body trembling slightly, especially her hands. She was emotionally agitated but also persevered. "If you don't want to die, don't get close to me." After a few seconds, the young pastor slowly turned around and left. She reached out to brush her long robe, which had been coated with bear's goblin brain, and frowned. "Smell, right? Yes, I was originally a pastor walking on the path of blood, using the name of Suluan to cut through all things and pursue the original light. I am neither a human nor an elf, and have no place to return. If I lose faith again, then I will have nothing. At least. Eleanor tightened the hammer around her waist, almost grasping the small pendant on her chest like a life-saving straw. "I am too weak now and have no right to save others. The great and supreme Silver Virgin. What should I do?" The pastor went away, and the mercenary leader Ferrara and his deputy Montero exchanged a glance, signaling that the wanderer should quickly hide elsewhere. "How's it going?" Montero whispered, "Do you want to continue?" "No, just finish this order well," Ferrara warned her deputy. "I now believe that meeting the Viscount is Tumora's blessing. After this order is completed, we must go to the Temple of Tamora in Suzor and donate a little, grateful for her kindness." If everything goes smoothly, that's natural, Montreux thought deeply, their luck this time was too good. If everything goes smoothly, perhaps we can collaborate with His Excellency the Viscount in the future, so that we can stay in Zambia. Did you feel it? The Viscount's magic and charm are a bit abnormal. What kind of nobles do you need a pastor to follow? Updated. I updated 2 chapters today. I am so amazing. There's absolutely no manuscript left, woo. End of this chapter.